beneath the surface of the mind. We live our lives in the bright, familiar landscape of our conscious awareness. But what if this landscape is merely a thin crust of earth, floating upon a vast, hidden ocean? What lies beneath the surface of the mind? This is the central question of our journey tonight. The feeling of being you in this moment is likely centered in your conscious thoughts, your immediate perceptions, your deliberate choices. This conscious mind is the part of ourselves we identify with, the part we believe to be in control. For centuries, Western thought largely equated the mind with this conscious, rational faculty. But one of the greatest revolutions in human understanding has been the discovery, or perhaps the rediscovery, that this conscious awareness is merely the tip of a colossal psychological iceberg. Beneath the surface lies a vast, powerful, and largely invisible world, the subconscious mind. This is the realm of our deepest instincts, our forgotten memories, our automatic habits, our hidden desires and fears. It is the silent, powerful engine that shapes the very texture of our conscious reality. Over the next 3 hours, we will embark on a gentle, contemplative journey into this hidden realm. This is not a journey of psychoanalysis in the clinical sense, but one of philosophical and psychological exploration, designed to foster a sense of wonder and self-compassion. We will begin by exploring the hidden machinery of thought, looking at the automatic patterns and mental shortcuts that our brains use to navigate the world with incredible efficiency, and how these shortcuts can sometimes become hidden mind traps. We will then listen for the quiet whispers of our inner world, delving into the silent power of intuition and the science of gut feelings, exploring how our bodies and our subconscious minds often possess a wisdom that our conscious thoughts cannot access. We will examine the architecture of our daily lives, the habit loop, and understand how so much of our behavior is a form of repetition without awareness, an unconscious script running in the background. Our journey will take us into the heart of our emotional lives, exploring the emotional echoes of the past, and how our feelings, often driven by unconscious associations, powerfully shape our perception of the present. This will lead us into the deep and sometimes challenging territory of the shadow mind, the realm of our suppressed desires and fears, and the Jungian concept of archetypes and collective patterns that connect our personal psyche to a shared human heritage. We will confront the powerful illusion of control, questioning how much of our lives we truly direct, and we will look at the self-defeating nature of thought loops and overthinking. We will then explore the language of the subconscious, the rich, symbolic dialect of our dreams. We will see how our deepest beliefs are often rooted in this unseen soil and how even our most cherished memories are often a form of fiction, constantly being rewritten by our inner narrator. We will examine the stories we tell ourselves, the narratives that create our very sense of identity, and the profound split between the conscious and the unconscious that defines the human condition. We will also look at the darker manifestations of this split, the patterns of self-sabotage that can emerge when our conscious goals and unconscious desires are in conflict, and the strange comfort of cognitive illusions that our minds create to protect us from difficult truths. In our final hour, we will explore our relationship with the outer world as a reflection of our inner world, delving into the mechanism of projection, of seeing ourselves in others. We will understand how emotional conditioning creates our automatic responses, and how the subtle influence of the body on the mind shapes our reality. We will touch upon the mysterious phenomenon of synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that seem to hint at a connection between our inner state and the outer world. And we will see how creativity often springs from a surrender to the subconscious flow. Finally, we will turn towards a path of integration and peace. We will contemplate what it means to awaken from automatic thinking, to bring a gentle, conscious awareness to these hidden processes. We will explore the potential for reprogramming the hidden mind, for gently and patiently reshaping our habits and beliefs. And we will conclude our journey by resting in the concept of the quiet observer within, the core of our consciousness that can witness the entire drama of the mind without being swept away by it. The mindfuck at the heart of this entire exploration is the profound and humbling realization that you are not the sole author of your own thoughts, nor the absolute master of your own will. Your conscious self is a co-creator, a partner in a deep and intricate dance with a vast, powerful, and ancient intelligence that resides within you. The subconscious mind is not an enemy to be conquered, but a wise and powerful part of your being to be understood, respected, and befriended. As you begin to fall asleep, let go of the idea that you are only your conscious thoughts. Allow your awareness to soften, to expand, to sink beneath the surface. Imagine your mind as a vast, deep ocean. The surface is alive with the waves and ripples of your conscious thoughts, but tonight, we will gently sink below that surface into the calm, quiet, and profound depths. This is not a journey of effort, but of surrender, a journey of listening, a journey into the secrets of the subconscious mind. The hidden machinery of thought. Where do your thoughts come from? Before a thought becomes a clear, conscious idea in your mind, what is the process that gives it form? Let us explore the hidden machinery of thought, the silent, invisible factory that runs continuously just beneath the surface of your mind. We experience our thoughts as a stream, a flow of consciousness. But this stream is the final, finished product, not the raw material. Behind the curtain of our awareness lies an incredibly complex and sophisticated set of cognitive machinery, constantly working to process information, make connections, and generate the thoughts that we experience as our own. Understanding this hidden machinery is the first step in understanding the subconscious mind. It is a profound psychology mystery that reveals the automatic, associative, and often non-logical nature of where our ideas are born. This is a mind fuck because it questions our sense of being the deliberate thinker of our thoughts, suggesting instead that we are often the last to know what our brain is thinking about. Let's begin with the sheer scale of the operation. Your conscious mind can only handle a very small amount of information at once. Some psychologists estimate it's as little as 40 bits of information per second. Your senses, however, are taking in around 11 million bits of information per second from the world around you. The vast majority of this information is processed unconsciously. Your brain is constantly analyzing sounds, sights, bodily sensations, and internal signals, filtering out what is irrelevant and highlighting what might be important, all without any conscious effort on your part. This massive, parallel processing is the first layer of the hidden machinery. Within this unconscious processing, one of the most fundamental mechanisms is pattern recognition. Our brains are the most sophisticated pattern recognition machines in the known universe. They are constantly and automatically searching for familiar patterns in the chaos of incoming data. This is an evolutionary survival skill. Recognizing the pattern of a predator's stripes in the grass, or the pattern of a familiar, friendly face, was a matter of life and death for our ancestors. This pattern-seeking drive is so powerful that it gives rise to phenomena like pareidolia, seeing faces in clouds or patterns in static. A thought often begins as the unconscious recognition of a familiar pattern. You hear a few notes of a song and your brain, recognizing the pattern, will unconsciously complete the melody in your mind, which then pops into your conscious awareness. Another key piece of machinery is associative activation. Our knowledge and memories are not stored like files in a computer, in neat, discrete folders. They are stored in a vast, interconnected web of neurons, a semantic network. When one concept or node in this network is activated, the activation spreads to other related nodes. This is the basis of free association. A single word like beach can trigger a cascade of unconscious associations: sun, sand, ocean, vacation, childhood, relaxation. The thoughts that arise in our stream of consciousness are often simply the conscious bubbles that rise to the surface from this deep, underlying process of spreading activation. A random sensory input, a particular smell, a certain quality of light, can trigger a node in this network and set off a chain reaction, leading to a memory or a feeling that seems to come from nowhere. This machinery is not strictly logical, it is associative. It works on principles of similarity, contiguity, things that happen together in time, and emotional resonance. This is the language of the subconscious, the language of dreams. In our dreams, this associative machinery runs freely, creating bizarre and seemingly nonsensical narratives by linking together disparate memories and concepts based on their emotional or symbolic connections. Our waking thoughts are often a more constrained version of this same process, with our conscious, logical mind, the executive control network, working to direct and make sense of this fundamentally associative flow. The mindfuck of this is the realization that the very stuff of your thoughts is being generated by a process that is largely outside your conscious control and does not operate on the principles of logic that your conscious self values so highly. The hidden machinery is a poet, a dreamer, a pattern matcher, not a logician. Our rational mind is often just the editor trying to make sense of the creative and sometimes chaotic prose that bubbles up from the depths. This questions the very idea that you are a rational being. Perhaps it is more accurate to say that you are a being that possesses a capacity for rationality, a capacity that is constantly working with, and sometimes struggling against, a much older, more powerful, and more fundamental associative mind. The mystery is the nature of the interface between this unconscious machinery and our conscious awareness. What determines which of the billions of unconscious processes and associations gets promoted to become a conscious thought? It seems to be a combination of factors: the strength of the stimulus, the emotional charge of the association, its relevance to our current goals, and perhaps even an element of randomness. Consciousness, in this view, is like the small spotlight of a flashlight in a vast, dark warehouse. The spotlight illuminates whatever it is pointed at, but the warehouse itself is filled with an immense amount of activity and information that remains in the dark. As you continue to fall asleep, bring a gentle awareness to the very process of thought itself. Notice how thoughts seem to simply appear in your mind from an unknown source: a memory, an image, a worry, a plan. You do not need to follow them or engage with them. Simply acknowledge them as the products of the hidden machinery, the beautiful, complex, and automatic workings of your brain's unconscious processing. Find deep relaxation in letting go of the feeling that you are responsible for creating every single thought. You are not the factory worker. You are the one who receives the finished product. Rest peacefully, allowing the hidden factory of your mind to continue its silent, mysterious work as you drift into a state where that machinery runs free, the state of dreams. Automatic patterns and mental shortcuts. Having explored the deep, associative machinery that generates our thoughts, let us now examine the specific software that this machinery often runs. To navigate an incredibly complex world with a limited amount of conscious attention, our brains have evolved a vast repertoire of automatic patterns and mental shortcuts. These are the ingrained rules of thumb, the cognitive habits, and the default assumptions that allow us to make judgments and decisions quickly and efficiently, without having to reason everything out from first principles every single time. These shortcuts, known in psychology as heuristics, are the secret to our mind's incredible efficiency. But they also come with a cost. They are the source of our most common cognitive biases and hidden mind traps. They are the well-worn paths in our mental landscape that are so easy to follow that we often do so without any awareness, even when they lead us astray. The mystery of these automatic patterns is their dual nature. They are both our greatest cognitive strength and our greatest cognitive weakness. This is a mindfuck that questions the very reliability of our intuitive judgments, revealing that our common sense is often a complex and sometimes flawed system of unconscious rules. Let's begin by appreciating the absolute necessity of these mental shortcuts. Imagine if you had to perform a full logical analysis for every single decision you make in a day. Which brand of toothpaste to buy? You would have to research the chemical composition, the manufacturing processes, the ethical standards of the company, and the long-term dental health outcomes for thousands of users. It would take you hours. Instead, your brain uses a simple heuristic: by the brand I'm familiar with, or by the one the dentist recommended, or by the one that's on sale. These shortcuts allow you to make a good enough decision in a fraction of a second, conserving your precious mental energy for more important tasks. Our minds are not designed for perfect, logical accuracy in every situation. They are designed for adaptive, efficient action. Heuristics are the core of this design. One of the most famous of these heuristics is the availability heuristic, which we have touched upon. This is the mental shortcut of judging the likelihood or frequency of an event based on how easily examples come to mind. If we can easily recall instances of something, we assume it must be common. This works well much of the time. We can easily recall instances of rain because it rains frequently. But this heuristic is systematically biased by factors like vividness, emotional impact, and recent media coverage. We might overestimate the risk of a shark attack because the few instances that occur are incredibly vivid and highly publicized, while underestimating the more common and less dramatic risks of daily life. The shortcut trades statistical accuracy for speed and salience. Another powerful shortcut is the representativeness heuristic. This is our tendency to judge the probability that something belongs to a category based on how similar it is to our mental prototype of that category. For example, if you meet someone who is quiet, wears glasses, and loves to read, and you are asked if they are more likely to be a librarian or a salesperson, you might instinctively say, librarian, because they fit your stereotype. In doing so, you are likely ignoring the base rate information, the fact that there are vastly more salespeople in the world than librarians, making it statistically much more likely that they are a salesperson, regardless of their personality. We judge by resemblance, not by probability. This is another example of our intuitive, automatic patterns overriding a more logical, statistical analysis. These shortcuts and the biases they produce are not just happening for big decisions. They are the very texture of our moment-to-moment thought. Anchoring, framing effects, confirmation bias. All these and more are the result of our brain's reliance on these fast, efficient, but often flawed, automatic patterns. The mindfuck of these mental shortcuts is the realization that a huge portion of what you consider to be your rational deliberation is actually the product of these unconscious, automatic heuristics. When you have a gut feeling or an intuitive judgment about a situation, you are often just experiencing the output of one of these fast, subconscious routines. Your conscious mind then often engages in a process of post hoc rationalization, creating a logical-sounding story to justify the intuitive answer that was already generated by the hidden machinery. We believe we are thinking logically, but we are often just creating a narrative to explain a pre-existing automatic judgment. This questions our self-perception as conscious, rational agents and reveals the immense power of these silent, cognitive habits. The psychology mystery is why these patterns are so incredibly persistent and resistant to change, even when we are made aware of them. You can intellectually understand the logic of a probability puzzle, yet still feel the powerful intuitive pull of the wrong answer. This suggests that these heuristics are not just bad habits of thought. They are deeply ingrained, perhaps evolutionarily ancient features of our cognitive architecture. They are the default mode of the human brain. To think more logically and rationally requires us to consciously override these powerful, automatic tendencies, an act that requires effort, attention, and a good deal of self-awareness. As you continue to fall asleep, bring a gentle, non-judgmental awareness to the very flow of your own thoughts. Recognize that many of these thoughts are not original creations of this moment, but are the products of deep, automatic patterns and mental shortcuts. The well-worn pathways of your mind. See these heuristics not as flaws, but as a testament to your brain's incredible efficiency, its ability to navigate a complex world with limited resources. Acknowledge the biases they can create, the subtle ways they can shape your perception without your awareness. Find deep relaxation in letting go of the need to be a perfect, logical machine. Embrace your mind as it is, a beautiful, efficient, and sometimes quirky collection of ancient shortcuts and conscious reason. Resting peacefully, allowing the automatic, effortless, and deeply ingrained patterns of your mind to gently guide you into the quiet of sleep. The silent power of intuition. What is that quiet inner knowing, that sudden flash of insight or deep gut feeling that seems to arrive fully formed, without the slow, deliberate steps of logical reasoning? We now turn our attention to one of the most mysterious and powerful aspects of our subconscious mind, the silent power of intuition. In a world that prizes logic, data, and conscious, articulable thought, intuition is often dismissed as something mystical, unreliable, or purely emotional. But modern psychology and neuroscience are beginning to reveal that intuition is not magic. It is a profound and sophisticated form of intelligence, a manifestation of the vast, high-speed, parallel processing that is constantly happening beneath the surface of the mind. The mystery of intuition is not that it exists, but how it works, how our brains can know something without knowing how it knows. This is a mindfuck that questions the supremacy of our conscious, rational self, suggesting that our deepest wisdom often speaks in a language other than words. Learning to listen to this silent power can be a source of profound guidance and deep relaxation as you fall asleep. Let us begin by distinguishing intuition from pure emotion or simple guesswork. While intuition often manifests as a feeling, it is not just an arbitrary mood. It is a form of cognition, a processing of information. It is the experience of a conclusion bubbling up into consciousness from the deep, vast archives of the cognitive unconscious. Think of your conscious, analytical mind as a small office, where a single worker can only look at one document at a time, reading it line by line. This is a slow, careful, and logical process. The subconscious mind, on the other hand, is like a vast, interconnected library with a million librarians working in parallel, simultaneously cross-referencing every book, every article, every footnote, looking for patterns and connections. Intuition is the slip of paper that one of these librarians silently passes under the door of the conscious office, containing only the final, bottom-line conclusion, without any of the supporting research. The conscious mind looks at the answer and says, "I don't know how I know this, but I know it's true." This process of unconscious pattern recognition is the key to understanding the intuition of an expert. Consider an experienced firefighter who suddenly orders their team out of a burning building moments before it collapses. If you ask the firefighter why they made that call, they might not be able to give you a single logical reason. They might say, "It just felt wrong," or "The fire sounded strange." What was likely happening was that their subconscious mind, trained by thousands of hours of experience with fires, was processing a constellation of subtle, almost imperceptible cues: a slight change in the color of the smoke, a faint creaking sound, a different quality to the heat, and matching this complex pattern to a stored, implicit memory of a previous fire that was about to collapse. The subconscious performed a lightning-fast risk assessment based on a vast database of experience, and delivered its conclusion as a powerful, urgent, life-saving hunch. The conscious mind didn't have time to analyze the individual cues, it just received the final, holistic verdict. This silent power is not limited to experts. It is a fundamental part of our social intelligence. When you get a strong, immediate feeling about a person you've just met, a sense of trust or distrust, you are experiencing social intuition. Your subconscious mind is processing a massive amount of nonverbal data: their facial microexpressions, their posture, their tone of voice, the tiny hesitations in their speech, and comparing this pattern to every other person you have ever encountered. The resulting gut feeling is a complex, data-driven judgment about their character and intentions, delivered to your conscious awareness as a simple, powerful feeling. While this process is not infallible and can be distorted by our own implicit biases, it is often a remarkably accurate and adaptive form of social assessment. The mindfuck of intuition is its profound challenge to our modern, Western cultural bias towards explicit, articulable knowledge. We are taught to trust what can be explained, what can be put into words and defended with logic. Intuition defies this. It is a form of knowing that is often nonverbal, holistic, and resistant to logical breakdown. To trust our intuition is to trust a part of our mind that we do not consciously control or fully understand. It requires a leap of faith in our own deeper, unconscious cognitive processes. This questions the very idea that thinking is something that only happens in our conscious awareness. It suggests that the vast majority of our thinking is happening silently, beneath the surface, and our conscious thoughts are just the final, visible crests of these deep cognitive waves. The psychology mystery lies in the precise neurocomputational mechanisms of this process. How does the brain store and access this vast, implicit database of patterns? How does it perform these lightning-fast, parallel computations? How is the final result of this computation translated into the subjective experience of a hunch or a gut feeling? Research points to the importance of brain regions that integrate vast amounts of information, like the insula, which processes interoceptive, bodily signals, giving rise to gut feelings, and the prefrontal cortex, but the full process remains one of the most exciting frontiers of neuroscience. Learning to cultivate and listen to our intuition is a subtle art. It is not about abandoning critical thinking, but about learning to integrate our rational analysis with our intuitive insights. The first and most important step is to create moments of inner silence. The voice of intuition is often quiet, a subtle whisper that is easily drowned out by the loud, incessant chatter of our conscious, analytical mind. Practices like meditation, spending quiet time in nature, or engaging in simple, repetitive activities can help to quiet the conscious noise and create the mental space needed to hear these subtler signals. The second step is to pay attention to the language of the body. Intuition often communicates not through words, but through somatic markers, physical sensations. A feeling of lightness and expansion in the chest might be a yes. A feeling of tightness or constriction in the gut might be a no. Learning to notice and trust these subtle embodied signals is a key part of developing intuitive awareness. Finally, it requires a willingness to act on our hunches, at least in small, low-stakes situations, and to see what happens. This builds a feedback loop, helping us to learn the feel of our genuine intuition and to distinguish it from the louder voices of fear or wishful thinking. As you continue to fall asleep, allow your busy, analytical mind to gently quiet down. Let the need for linear, logical explanations begin to dissolve. And bring your awareness to the silent, spacious background of your own mind. This is the home of your intuition, your unseen mind. Contemplate the profound intelligence that operates within you without the need for conscious thought. The part of you that recognizes patterns, makes connections, and feels the truth of a situation long before your conscious mind can catch up. You do not need to seek an insight now. Simply create the quiet, receptive space for it. Find deep relaxation in trusting this silent, powerful, and deeply wise part of your own being, resting peacefully, knowing that you are always being guided by a wisdom far vaster than your conscious thoughts. The habit loop. What if I told you that nearly half of your waking life is not guided by your conscious choices, but by a powerful hidden engine operating deep within your mind? We now explore the silent architect of our daily existence, the habit loop. A habit is a behavior that has been repeated so often that it becomes automatic, a sequence of actions or thoughts that unfolds without our conscious intention, often without our awareness at all. From the way you tie your shoes, to the route you drive to work, to your automatic emotional reaction in a stressful situation, your life is a vast tapestry woven from these unconscious automatic patterns. This is not a sign of weakness, it is a testament to the brain's incredible efficiency. But this efficiency comes with a profound mind fuck, the realization that we are often not the conscious drivers of our lives, but passengers in a vehicle that is being steered by the powerful, unthinking force of habit. This psychology mystery questions our very sense of free will and agency, revealing the immense power of repetition without awareness. Understanding this loop is the first step to reclaiming our choices and is a pathway to deep relaxation as you fall asleep. The modern understanding of the habit loop was famously detailed by researchers at MIT and popularized by author Charles Duhigg. It is a simple, three-part neurological circuit that is deeply ingrained in a primitive part of our brain called the basal ganglia. Understanding this loop is the key to understanding why habits are so powerful and so difficult to change. The first part of the loop is the cue. This is the trigger, the specific context that tells your brain to go into automatic mode and which habit to use. The cue can be almost anything. It can be a location. Entering the kitchen might be a cue to open the refrigerator. It can be a time of day. 3 p.m. might be a cue to get a sugary snack. It can be an emotional state. Feeling bored might be a cue to pick up your phone and scroll through social media. It can be the presence of certain people, or most commonly, it can be a preceding action that is part of a longer chain of habits. Finishing dinner might be a cue to crave a cigarette. This cue is the starting pistol that begins the unconscious routine. The second part is the routine. This is the behavior itself, the physical, mental, or emotional sequence that you perform automatically. The routine is the habit that we typically see. It can be a simple physical action like biting your nails when you feel anxious, or it can be an incredibly complex one like backing your car out of the driveway, a sequence involving dozens of coordinated muscle movements that most experienced drivers perform with zero conscious thought. The routine can also be purely cognitive, like the thought loop of a chronic worrier, where a single anxious thought, the cue, triggers a familiar, automatic cascade of catastrophic thinking. The crucial feature of the routine is that while it is running, the conscious, decision-making part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, is largely disengaged. You are on autopilot. The third and most powerful part of the loop is the reward. This is the positive outcome that occurs at the end of the routine, which tells your brain, this loop is worth remembering and repeating. The reward is what reinforces the habit and makes it stronger over time. It works by creating a neurological craving. As the brain begins to anticipate the reward, it releases a small amount of dopamine, a powerful neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and motivation. This is why habits are so hard to break. It's not just the behavior itself we become attached to, it's the neurological craving for the reward that the behavior delivers. The reward can be a tangible pleasure like the taste of food or the buzz of nicotine. But it can also be a subtle emotional shift, like the momentary distraction from boredom that social media provides, or the feeling of stress relief from a familiar ritual. The mind fuck of the habit loop is its profound autonomy. Once a habit is deeply ingrained, it is no longer a choice. It is a neurological reflex. This questions our sense of being in control of our own lives. It suggests that a huge portion of our daily existence is a form of repetition without awareness, a reenactment of old scripts that were wired into our brains long ago. This is why we so often find ourselves doing things we consciously don't want to do. The conscious you decides to go on a diet, but the subconscious habit loop, cued by the sight of a cookie and craving the reward of a sugar rush, can often win the battle before your conscious willpower is even fully engaged. The psychology mystery lies in the brain's incredible plasticity and its powerful drive for efficiency. The brain doesn't distinguish between good habits and bad habits. It only distinguishes between routines that are consistently rewarded and those that are not. Any behavior that is repeated and rewarded will be automated, for better or for worse. This is why we can unconsciously develop both habits of excellence, like practicing a musical instrument every day, and habits of self-destruction, like addictive behaviors, using the exact same neurological mechanism. The habit loop is morally neutral, it is simply a tool for automation. Understanding this hidden machinery is not a cause for despair, but for empowerment. It reveals the secret to changing our behavior. The key is not to fight the old habit head-on, a battle of willpower that is often doomed to fail. The key, as we've noted, is to re-engineer the habit loop. The golden rule of habit change is to keep the same cue and the same reward, but to consciously and deliberately substitute a new, more desirable routine. First, you must develop the awareness to identify the components of your loop. When you find yourself engaging in a bad habit, you can ask with gentle curiosity, what was the cue that just happened? What was the emotional state, the time of day, the preceding action? And what is the reward my brain is truly craving? Is it distraction? Relaxation? Social connection? Once you have identified the cue and the reward, you can begin to experiment with a new routine that provides a similar reward. If the cue is boredom and the reward is distraction, instead of scrolling on your phone, the old routine, you could try reading a chapter of a book, a new routine. By consciously practicing this new loop, you begin to carve a new neurological pathway, and the old one begins to wither from disuse. This is the slow, patient work of reprogramming the hidden mind. As you continue to fall asleep, gently bring your awareness to the rhythm of your own habits. Acknowledge the powerful, silent force of automaticity that has guided you through this day, the thousands of actions performed without conscious thought. See these habit loops not as your master, but as a testament to your brain's incredible efficiency. A system designed to free up your conscious mind. Find deep relaxation in the knowledge that you are not powerless. By understanding the loop, the cue, the routine, the reward, you hold the key to gently and consciously reshaping your own automatic patterns. Resting peacefully with a deep sense of compassion for your own habits, and a quiet confidence in your ability to cultivate the ones that truly serve you. Emotional echoes. We often believe we see the world objectively, that our senses are clear windows providing us with a direct, unbiased view of reality. But the world we experience is never neutral. It is always colored, always textured, always shaped by the subtle and powerful force of our inner state. We will now explore the mystery of emotional echoes, the profound way in which our feelings shape our perception. This is a deep secret of the subconscious, revealing that our emotions are not just reactions to the world, they are active ingredients in the creation of our world. A feeling that arises from a past memory, a physiological state, or an unconscious association can cast its color over the entire canvas of our present reality, changing what we see, what we notice, and what we believe to be true. This is a mindfuck that questions the very idea of objective perception, suggesting that we are always, in a sense, hallucinating a world that reflects our own inner emotional landscape. Understanding this can be a source of profound self-awareness and deep relaxation as you fall asleep. Let's begin by understanding that emotion and perception are not separate processes in the brain. They are deeply and inextricably intertwined. Modern neuroscience has shown that the brain regions involved in emotional processing, like the amygdala and the insula, have extensive connections to the sensory cortices, the areas that process information from our eyes, ears, and body. This means that emotional signals can modulate and influence sensory processing at a very early stage. Your feelings are not just an add-on to your perception. They are a fundamental part of the perceptual calculation itself. Consider the powerful emotion of fear. When you are in a state of fear or anxiety, the world literally looks, sounds, and feels different. Your senses go on high alert. Your perception narrows, creating a kind of tunnel vision that focuses on potential threats. Ambiguous stimuli are more likely to be interpreted negatively. In the dark, a coat hanging on a door becomes a menacing figure. The neutral expression on a stranger's face is perceived as anger or hostility. The rustle of leaves in the wind becomes the sound of footsteps. Your fear is not just a feeling inside you. It is a filter that you are projecting onto the world, a top-down prediction that the world is dangerous, which then causes you to selectively find evidence that confirms your fear. The emotional echo of past threats or present anxiety shapes your immediate reality. This is true for positive emotions as well. When you are feeling happy, joyful, or in love, the world can seem brighter, more vibrant, more beautiful. Colors can appear more saturated. People can seem friendlier. You are more likely to notice the positive aspects of your environment and to interpret ambiguous events in a hopeful light. The positive emotion creates a top-down filter of safety and opportunity, literally changing what you perceive. This is not just a poetic metaphor. Research has shown that our emotional state can influence low-level perceptual tasks, like our ability to distinguish between different colors or our judgment of brightness. These emotional echoes can also be triggered by unconscious processes, by implicit memory. Imagine you walk into a room where, years ago, you had a very difficult and painful argument. You may have no conscious memory of this event, but your subconscious mind, the vast archive of your emotional past, remembers. The specific configuration of the room, the light, the furniture, the smell, can act as a subconscious cue, triggering the emotional echo of the past conflict. You suddenly feel a sense of unease, of sadness, or of inexplicable tension without knowing why. This feeling then colors your perception of the present moment. The conversation you are having in that room might feel more tense than it actually is. The person you are with might seem more hostile. Your emotional past is literally bleeding through and staining your perception of the present. This is the power of emotional conditioning. The mind fuck of this phenomenon is its profound challenge to our sense of objectivity. We believe we are reacting to the world as it is. But very often we are reacting to a world that has been pre-filtered and pre-colored by our own, often unconscious, emotional state. The world we see is not just out there. It is a co-creation, a collaboration between the external sensory data and our internal affective landscape. This questions the very idea of a shared, objective reality. Two people can stand in the exact same spot looking at the exact same scene, but if one is in a state of fear and the other is in a state of joy, they are, in a very real sense, inhabiting two different worlds. The psychology mystery lies in the seamlessness of this process. We do not feel like we are projecting our emotions onto the world. We feel like we are objectively seeing a threatening world or a beautiful world. The emotional coloring is experienced as an inherent property of the reality we are observing. Our brain creates this unified experience so perfectly that we are usually completely unaware of our own emotional contribution to our perception. This is a powerful and necessary illusion for quick, adaptive action, but it can also trap us in self-reinforcing emotional loops. If you are feeling anxious, you perceive the world as more threatening, which in turn makes you feel more anxious, and so on. The path to freedom from these emotional loops lies in the cultivation of mindfulness and emotional self-awareness. The practice is to learn to distinguish between the raw sensory data and our emotional interpretation of it. When you feel a strong emotion, you can learn to pause and simply notice the feeling as a sensation in your body, without immediately believing the story that the emotion is telling you about the world. You can ask, with gentle curiosity, what am I feeling right now? And how might this feeling be influencing what I am perceiving? This simple act of awareness creates a space between the emotion and your perception of reality. It allows you to see the filter, instead of just seeing through it. This doesn't make the emotion go away, but it reduces its power to completely define your reality. As you continue to fall asleep, bring a gentle awareness to the emotional tone of this present moment. Is there a feeling of peace? Of tiredness? Of subtle anxiety? Of contentment? Acknowledge this feeling without judgment. Now, contemplate how this feeling might be subtly coloring your thoughts, your memories, and your perception of the very sound of this voice. See your emotions not as interruptions to your perception, but as an integral part of it, the deep, resonant music that accompanies the movie of your mind. Find deep relaxation in this integrated view. Let go of the illusion of a purely objective, unemotional self, and instead, embrace the rich, complex, and beautifully subjective reality that is created by the constant, mysterious dance between your inner feelings and the outer world, resting peacefully, floating calmly on the gentle, emotional currents of your own being. The shadow mind. What happens to the parts of ourselves that we refuse to see? Where do the impulses, the desires, and the fears that we deem unacceptable go when we push them away from the light of our conscious awareness? They do not simply disappear. They are relegated to the shadow mind, the vast, dark, and often turbulent cellar of our psyche. The shadow, a concept most famously explored by the psychologist Carl Jung, is the unconscious and disowned part of our personality, a hidden mind trap of immense power. It is the repository for everything about ourselves that we have judged to be bad, weak, shameful, or evil. The mystery of the shadow mind is that the more we suppress and deny it, the more autonomous and destructive it becomes, often controlling our lives from behind a curtain of unconsciousness. This is a profound mind fuck that questions our very self-image, suggesting that we are not just the person we think we are, but also the person we pretend we are not. Gently confronting the existence of this dark side is not a path to despair, but a necessary step towards wholeness and a state of deep, authentic relaxation as you fall asleep. The formation of the shadow mind is an unavoidable part of our psychological development. As children, we learn from our parents, our teachers, and our culture which parts of our nature will be met with approval and which will be met with disapproval or punishment. To gain love and acceptance, we begin to construct a conscious self-image, a persona, that is built from our good and acceptable traits. The parts that don't fit, our raw aggression, our selfishness, our intense emotions, our vulnerabilities, our socially unacceptable desires, are systematically disowned. We split them off from our conscious identity and push them down into the darkness of the subconscious. This is not a conscious, deliberate choice. It is a primal act of psychological survival. But the result is that we become divided against ourselves, living a life based on a carefully curated, but ultimately incomplete, version of who we are. The rejected parts become the energetic and often angry inhabitants of the shadow mind. The central paradox of the shadow is that our very act of repression is what gives it its power. An unacknowledged shadow does not lie dormant. It is a dynamic and autonomous part of our psyche, and it will always find a way to be seen. The most common way it manifests is through projection. As we have explored in other journeys, this is the unconscious defense mechanism of attributing our own disowned qualities to other people. We fail to see our own capacity for arrogance, but we are intensely and self-righteously irritated by the arrogance we perceive in a colleague. We deny our own deep-seated fears of inadequacy, but we become hypercritical of the perceived weaknesses of others. The world becomes a screen upon which we project our own inner darkness. The people in groups we hate, the ones who trigger a disproportionate emotional reaction in us, are often unwitting carriers of our projected shadow. This allows us to fight against our own bad qualities, but we do so by attacking them out there, in the other person, which prevents us from ever having to confront them within ourselves. The shadow mind can also erupt more directly into our lives, especially when our conscious control is weakened by stress, fatigue, or intoxication. This can lead to what Jung called as shadow possession, a moment where we find ourselves saying or doing something that feels completely alien to our conscious personality. It's the sudden, inexplicable outburst of rage from a normally placid person, the shockingly cruel remark from someone who prides themselves on their kindness, the act of self-sabotage that undermines our most cherished goals. These are often the actions of the shadow, bursting forth to express the energy that has been so long suppressed. These moments are typically followed by intense shame and confusion, and the bewildered statement, "I was not myself." The terrifying truth, from a Jungian perspective, is that you were yourself. You were just a part of yourself that you had refused to know. The mindfuck of the shadow is its profound challenge to our moral self-concept. We want to believe we are good people. The shadow confronts us with the undeniable reality that we all possess a capacity for darkness, for all the evil traits that we so readily condemn in others. It is a deeply humbling and, for many, a terrifying realization. The psychology mystery lies in the shadow's dual nature. It is not purely negative. Because we repress anything that doesn't fit with our idealized self-image, the shadow often contains our golden aspects as well. It can be the repository of our undeveloped creativity, our healthy aggression and assertiveness, our spontaneity, our connection to our instincts and our bodies. A person who has built a persona of being overly intellectual and controlled might have a shadow that is full of rich, passionate, and artistic potential. The darkness of the unconscious is not just a cellar of monsters. It is also a treasure hoard of lost and forgotten parts of our own soul. The path to psychological maturity, in this view, is not to try and destroy the shadow, which is an impossible and self-mutilating task. It is the courageous, lifelong work of shadow integration. This is the process of making the darkness conscious. It is the act of turning inward, of withdrawing our projections from the world, and of taking responsibility for the full spectrum of our own being. It means having the courage to say, yes, I too have the capacity for cruelty. I too have feelings of envy. I too have suppressed desires and fears that are a part of my humanity. By bringing these disowned parts into the light of our conscious awareness, we do not become evil. We become whole. The energy that was bound up in the repressed shadow, the energy that was fueling our projections and our self-sabotaging behaviors, becomes available to our conscious self. The rage can be transformed into assertive, boundary-setting energy. The fear can be understood and met with compassion. The hidden creativity can be expressed. This integration is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process of self-discovery and acceptance. It is the only way to move from a state of inner conflict to a state of inner wholeness. As you continue to fall asleep, allow your awareness to gently acknowledge the existence of your own shadow mind. You do not need to look into its face or name its contents. Simply accept, with profound self-compassion, that there is a part of you that is hidden, a part that you have disowned. See this not as a sign of your brokenness, but as a universal part of the human condition, a consequence of the need to adapt and belong in a complex world. Let go of the need to be a perfectly good and consistent person, and instead, embrace the more profound and more realistic goal of being a whole person. Find deep relaxation in the courageous and compassionate act of accepting all of yourself, the light and the dark, the known and the unknown, resting peacefully, allowing the conscious and the subconscious to begin their slow, mysterious, and healing dance of integration in the quiet of sleep. The illusion of control. Let us now explore one of the most pervasive and fundamental hidden mind traps that shapes our perception of the world and our own agency within it. We will delve into the illusion of control. This is our powerful and often completely unconscious tendency to overestimate our ability to control or influence events, particularly those that are, in reality, a matter of pure chance. It is the gambler's belief that they have a hot hand, the sports fan's conviction that wearing their lucky jersey will help their team win, the driver's feeling that they are in control in a chaotic traffic situation. The illusion of control is a deep psychology mystery rooted in our profound need for agency and predictability. It is a mindfuck that questions the very foundation of our sense of power in the world, revealing that we are often more like hopeful passengers than skilled pilots. Understanding this illusion is a crucial step towards a more realistic, less anxious, and more humble relationship with the inherent randomness of existence, inviting deep relaxation through a gentle surrender to the things we cannot control as you fall asleep. The illusion of control was first systematically studied by psychologist Ellen Langer in the 1970s. In a series of elegant experiments, she demonstrated how easily this illusion can be induced. In one study, she sold lottery tickets to office workers. Some participants were simply handed a ticket, while others were allowed to choose their own ticket. Later, when the experimenter offered to buy the tickets back, the participants who had been allowed to choose their ticket demanded a significantly higher price for it. The simple, illusory act of choosing their own ticket had given them an inflated sense of their chances of winning. Their belief in their own agency had been projected onto a purely random event. Langer identified several key factors that foster this illusion. One is the presence of choice, as in the lottery experiment. Another is active involvement. If we are actively doing something related to the chance event, like rolling the dice ourselves in a game of craps, as opposed to someone else rolling them for us, we feel more in control of the outcome, even though the physics of the dice roll remains random. Familiarity with the task also increases the illusion. The more we know about the rules of a game of chance, the more we feel our skill can influence its outcome. Another factor is a focus on success. We tend to remember the times our superstitions or actions seemed to work, and we forget the many times they didn't, a form of confirmation bias. So, why are our brains so prone to this powerful illusion? From an evolutionary and psychological perspective, the belief in control is highly adaptive, even when it is an illusion. A sense of agency and self-efficacy, the belief that we can influence our environment and our own outcomes, is a powerful motivator. It encourages us to take action, to strive for goals, to persist in the face of difficulty. An organism that believes it has some control over its world is more likely to explore, to learn, and to survive than one that is paralyzed by a sense of complete helplessness. The illusion of control can be a powerful antidote to depression and apathy. It is the psychological engine of hope and striving. In a sense, evolution may have favored a brain that is slightly over-optimistic about its own influence, because the alternative, a state of learned helplessness, is so behaviorally crippling. The mind-fuck of the illusion of control is its profound and paradoxical nature. The very same bias that can lead a gambler to ruin or a CEO to make a disastrously overconfident business decision is also a key ingredient in the optimism and resilience that drives human achievement. It questions the very idea of a purely rational mind as being the most adaptive. A perfectly rational being, acutely aware of the vast role that randomness and luck play in life, might become too cautious, too hesitant to act. Our slightly irrational, overconfident belief in our own agency is what gets us out of bed in the morning and encourages us to take on the uncertain challenges of the day. The psychology mystery lies in the constant, unconscious negotiation our minds perform between acknowledging reality and maintaining a functional sense of control. The illusion is not a sign of a broken mind, but of a mind that is constantly trying to find a delicate balance between a realistic appraisal of the world and the psychological need to feel like an effective agent within it. The problems arise when this illusion becomes too strong, when our overconfidence leads us to take foolish risks, to fail to prepare for contingencies, or to blame ourselves for outcomes that were genuinely outside of our control, the flip side of the illusion. Understanding the illusion of control is a crucial step towards true wisdom and mental peace. It is not about surrendering to a fatalistic belief that we have no control at all. It is about learning to distinguish, with greater clarity and honesty, between the things we can influence and the things we cannot. This is the core teaching of Stoic philosophy, to focus our energy on our own choices, our own responses, our own character, the domain of our control, and to cultivate a state of calm acceptance or apatheia towards the external outcomes that are ultimately determined by fate, chance, or the actions of others. This is a practice of intellectual and emotional sorting. When faced with a situation, we can ask ourselves, what parts of this are truly within my control, and what parts are not? By focusing our efforts on the former and letting go of our anxiety about the latter, we can act more effectively and live with a far greater sense of inner peace. This is the difference between healthy self-efficacy and the stressful, and ultimately futile, attempt to control the uncontrollable. As you continue to fall asleep, gently bring your awareness to your own sense of agency and control. Acknowledge the deep, natural, and often healthy desire to be the master of your own fate. Feel the confidence and motivation that this belief provides. Now, with a sense of gentle, expansive humility, also acknowledge the vast ocean of things that are completely outside of your control. The roll of the dice, the actions of others, the great unfolding of the cosmos. Let go of the illusion that you can command the tides. Find deep relaxation in this profound act of surrender, in the quiet wisdom of focusing only on what is truly yours to control. Your own breath, your own attention, your own choice to relax in this present moment. Resting peacefully, floating calmly in the vast, mysterious, and often uncontrollable river of existence. Thought loops and the nature of overthinking. Let us now turn our attention to a hidden mind trap that is not a single bias, but a powerful, self-perpetuating process. It is one of the most common and distressing experiences of the modern, busy mind. We will explore thought loops and the nature of overthinking. This is the experience of being caught in a repetitive, circular, and often unproductive cycle of thinking about a particular problem, worry, or past event. It is the mind spinning its wheels, the inner narrator stuck on repeat. Overthinking, often referred to by psychologists as rumination, when focused on the past, or worry when focused on the future, feels like we are doing important mental work. We believe we are trying to figure things out. But more often than not, it is a cognitive trap that depletes our mental energy, amplifies our negative emotions, and leads not to insight but to paralysis. The psychology mystery of these thought loops is why our intelligent, problem-solving minds can so easily get stuck in these destructive, spinning cycles. This is a mind fuck that questions the very usefulness of our own thought process, revealing how the act of thinking itself can become the source of our suffering. Understanding this process is the first step to finding the off switch, inviting deep relaxation and mental quiet as you fall asleep. Let's begin by distinguishing overthinking from healthy self-reflection or problem-solving. Productive thinking is linear and goal-oriented. It moves forward. You identify a problem, you generate potential solutions, you evaluate them, you make a decision, and you move on. Overthinking, on the other hand, is circular. It is a thought loop. You endlessly rehash the same problem, you revisit the same past mistake, you play out the same future fear over and over again without ever reaching a new conclusion or a course of action. The process doesn't move forward, it just digs a deeper and deeper groove in your mind. Consider rumination. This is the form of overthinking that is focused on the past. It often centers on a past mistake, a social faux pas, a hurtful event, or a personal failing. You might find yourself endlessly replaying the event in your mind, asking, why did I say that? What if I had done this instead? What did they think of me? This is not the same as learning from the past. Learning involves extracting a lesson and moving on. Rumination is the act of being emotionally and cognitively stuck in the past, picking at a psychological wound and preventing it from healing. Research has shown that rumination is a major risk factor for, and a core symptom of, depression. It drains our mental resources and intensifies feelings of sadness, guilt, and hopelessness. Now consider worry. This is the form of overthinking that is focused on the future. It is a chain of negative, what if, thoughts. What if I fail the presentation? What if they don't like me? What if I get sick? While a moderate amount of future-oriented thinking is essential for planning and anticipating problems, chronic worry becomes a destructive thought loop. It often involves catastrophizing, taking a small, potential problem and mentally spiraling it into a worst-case scenario. Worry creates a state of chronic, low-grade anxiety, activating the body's stress response system for threats that have not happened and likely never will. It makes us suffer in our imagination, 1,000 tragedies that never come to pass. So why do we do it? If overthinking is so unproductive and painful, why is it such a common hidden mind trap? The mystery is that our brains often mistake overthinking for a useful activity. We are under the illusion that by constantly turning a problem over in our minds, we are being responsible, that we are working towards a solution. The analytical part of our brain, the ego, gets hijacked by the emotional part. The anxiety or sadness we feel demands our attention, and the ego responds by doing what it does best, thinking. But because the problem is often emotional or uncertain, with no easy logical solution, the thinking process can't find a resolution. It can't solve the feeling of regret or the uncertainty of the future. So, it just keeps running the same program again and again like a computer stuck in a processing loop. We are, in a sense, addicted to the process of thinking about the problem because it feels like we are doing something about it. The mindfuck of overthinking is that the very tool we rely on to solve our problems, our conscious, analytical mind, can become the very source of our suffering. The act of trying to think our way out of a feeling is what keeps us trapped in it. This questions the very authority of our inner narrator. It suggests that the constant stream of thoughts in our head is not always a reliable guide to truth or a useful tool for problem solving. Sometimes it is just noise, a feedback loop of anxiety generating more anxiety. So, how do we escape these thought loops? The solution is profoundly counterintuitive. It is not to think harder, but to learn to think less, or at least to change our relationship with our thoughts. This is the core insight of practices like mindfulness meditation. The first step is to become aware that you are overthinking. It is the act of metacognition, of noticing the thought loop from a detached perspective. You can learn to say to yourself with a sense of gentle recognition, there is the worrying story again, or, the mind is replaying that old memory. Once you have this awareness, you can create a space between yourself and your thoughts. You are not your thoughts, you are the awareness of your thoughts. You can then gently and repeatedly redirect your attention away from the looping thoughts and onto something in the present moment, something tangible and real. The most common anchor is the physical sensation of your breath. Feel the air entering your body and feel it leaving. When the thought loop pulls your attention away, which it will again and again, you gently, without judgment, guide your attention back to the breath. This is not about fighting or suppressing the thoughts. It is about simply defanging them by withdrawing your attention from them. You are training your mind to let the thoughts be just background noise, rather than the center of your universe. Other techniques can also be helpful. Scheduling a worry time, a specific, limited period each day where you give yourself full permission to overthink, can sometimes help to contain the anxiety, preventing it from spilling over into the rest of your day. Engaging in physical activity, spending time in nature, or becoming absorbed in a creative flow state are all powerful ways to break the cycle of rumination by shifting your brain into a different mode of processing. As you continue to fall asleep, gently bring your awareness to the nature of your own thinking right now. Notice if your mind is caught in any gentle thought loops, replaying an event from the day or anticipating something tomorrow. You do not need to do anything about these thoughts. Simply observe them with a sense of calm detachment. See them not as urgent problems to be solved, but as the automatic, habitual activity of a tired mind, like clouds drifting across the sky. Let go of the need to figure it all out right now. Find deep relaxation in the simple, profound act of giving your mind permission to rest, of unhooking yourself from the spinning wheel of overthinking, resting peacefully in the quiet, spacious awareness that exists beneath the surface of your thoughts. The language of symbols and dreams. Having quieted the noisy, repetitive loops of our conscious, analytical mind, let us now descend into a deeper, more ancient, and more mysterious mode of thought. We will explore the language of symbols and dreams. While our waking mind communicates primarily through the precise, logical and linear language of words, our subconscious mind speaks a different tongue. It is a language of images, of metaphors, of feelings, and of primordial symbols. This is the language that fills our dreams each night, a language that can seem bizarre, nonsensical, and chaotic to our rational ego. Yet, for depth psychologists like Freud and Jung, this symbolic language is the royal road to understanding our deepest selves, our hidden desires, our most profound fears, and our greatest potentials. The mystery of this language is its profound, multi-layered wisdom and its ability to communicate truths that are too deep or too complex for ordinary words. This is a mindfuck that questions the very supremacy of verbal language, revealing that our psyche possesses an older, richer, and more holistic way of making meaning. Learning to appreciate this symbolic dialect is a path to deep self-knowledge and relaxation as you fall asleep. Let's begin by understanding what a symbol is in a psychological sense. A symbol is more than just a simple sign. A sign has a direct, one-to-one correspondence to a known thing. The word stop on a sign means stop. A symbol, on the other hand, is pregnant with a surplus of meaning. It points to something that is partially unknown, mysterious, and cannot be fully captured in a rational definition. A symbol is the best possible expression for a complex, unconscious reality. A dream image of a vast ocean, for example, is not just a picture of water. It is a symbol that can evoke a whole constellation of associated meanings: the unconscious itself, the feminine, the origin of life, a feeling of boundless potential, or a fear of being overwhelmed. Its meaning is not a single, simple thing. It is a rich, multi-layered resonance. Where does this symbolic language come from? Sigmund Freud believed that the symbols in our dreams were primarily a form of disguise. As we've explored, he saw dreams as the fulfillment of repressed, often socially unacceptable wishes. The dream work, he argued, uses symbolism to censor and distort this forbidden wish, making it palatable enough to pass into our sleeping consciousness. A dream of a snake, for Freud, might almost always be a symbolic representation of a phallus. The interpretation of these symbols, for him, was a way of decoding the disguise to get back to the original repressed wish, which was often rooted in the dreamer's personal, biographical history. Carl Jung, on the other hand, had a much broader and more profound view of dream symbolism. While he agreed that some symbols are personal, he believed that the most powerful and significant symbols are not disguises, but are the natural, spontaneous expressions of the collective unconscious. They are the voice of the archetypes. The snake, for Jung, was not just a phallic symbol. It was a powerful, ambivalent archetype with a universal meaning that spans cultures and epochs. It could symbolize danger and temptation, but also healing, transformation, and wisdom, as in the symbol of the rod of Asclepius. The meaning of the snake in a specific dream would depend on the dreamer's own associations, but it would also carry this deep, universal, archetypal resonance. The dream, for Jung, was not trying to hide something from the dreamer, it was trying to reveal something, to communicate a deep, unconscious truth in the only language it knows, the language of mythic archetypal symbols. The mind-fuck of this symbolic language is that it operates on a completely different logic from our waking minds. Our conscious ego thinks in a linear cause and effect Aristotelian logic of either/or. The subconscious mind, the world of dreams, thinks in an associative, metaphorical, and paradoxical logic of both/and. In a dream, you can be both yourself and someone else at the same time. A place can be both your childhood home and a strange new city. This is not illogical from the perspective of the subconscious. It is simply how it makes connections by blending images and concepts that share a similar emotional tone or symbolic meaning. To understand our dreams, we must let go of our waking logic and learn to think more like a poet, to appreciate ambiguity, metaphor, and paradox. The psychology mystery is the profound intelligence and creativity of this symbolic process. How does our unconscious mind, every single night, spontaneously generate these elaborate, multi-layered, and often deeply insightful narrative dramas? The dream is a work of art, created in real time by a part of ourselves that we do not consciously control. The symbols it chooses are often exquisitely tailored to our specific psychological situation, offering insights, warnings, or compensatory images that our one-sided conscious attitude has been neglecting. The dream is the psyche's natural, self-regulating, and healing function at work. Understanding the language of symbols and dreams is not about learning a fixed, dream dictionary, where a snake always means X. This is a profound misunderstanding. The process is more like having a conversation with a wise but foreign poet. We must learn to listen with an open, curious, and non-literal mind. The process of working with a dream involves holding the image, feeling its emotional tone, exploring your own personal associations with it, and also considering its potential archetypal meanings. The goal is not to arrive at a single, correct interpretation, but to engage in a dialogue with the dream, to let it expand your awareness and reveal something new about your own inner world. As you continue to fall asleep, allow the rational verbal part of your mind to begin to soften and dissolve. Let go of the need for clear, logical definitions, and open your awareness to the more fluid, more ancient, and more mysterious language of symbols and dreams. Picture a vast, quiet, inner landscape, the world of your subconscious mind. See the images, the figures, the symbols that might arise there: a house, a tree, a river, a mysterious animal. You do not need to understand their meaning now. Simply acknowledge their presence with a sense of respect and wonder. Recognize this symbolic language as the native tongue of your own deep psyche, a source of profound wisdom and creativity. Find deep relaxation in trusting this inner, nonverbal intelligence. Resting peacefully, allowing your mind to gently transition from the prose of the waking world to the deep, symbolic poetry of the dream world. The subconscious roots of belief. We experience our beliefs as conscious, rational convictions, as conclusions we have arrived at through careful thought, experience, and evaluation of evidence. We hold our political, religious, and philosophical beliefs as core parts of our conscious identity. But what if the true foundations of our most cherished beliefs are not found in the bright, well-lit rooms of our conscious mind, but in the deep, unseen, and often non-rational soil of our subconscious? The idea that our conscious beliefs are often just the visible foliage of a vast, hidden root system is a profound psychology mystery and a deep secret of the subconscious mind. This is a mindfuck that questions the very story we tell ourselves about why we believe what we do, suggesting that our convictions are often shaped by hidden desires, primal fears, and early emotional experiences that we are not consciously aware of. Understanding the subconscious roots of belief is a pathway to profound intellectual humility and deep relaxation as you fall asleep. Let's begin by considering the emotional foundation of belief. While we like to think of ourselves as rational beings, a vast body of psychological research suggests that we are more often intuitive or emotional beings who then use our rational minds to justify our initial gut-level responses. This is the core idea behind Jonathan Haidt's moral foundations theory, which we have explored. He uses the metaphor of an elephant and a rider. The elephant represents our fast, automatic, intuitive, and emotional responses, which are largely the product of our subconscious mind. The rider represents our conscious, controlled, and analytical reasoning. The rider, our conscious self, may believe it is in charge, steering the elephant. But in reality, the elephant is far more powerful. Most of the time, the rider is simply serving as the elephant's press secretary, creating a plausible, post hoc rationalization for wherever the elephant has already decided to go. Our deepest beliefs, particularly our moral, political, and religious ones, are often like this. They are not the conclusion of a logical argument. They are the starting point, a deep, intuitive, emotional leaning that is shaped by our innate temperament, our early attachment experiences, and our cultural conditioning. Once this intuitive foundation is in place, our conscious, rational mind gets to work, selectively seeking out evidence that supports our belief, confirmation bias, and constructing elaborate, logical-sounding arguments to defend it. We are not reasoning our way to a conclusion. We are reasoning from a conclusion that has already been largely determined by the subconscious. Consider the deep subconscious need for safety, certainty, and belonging. These are powerful, evolutionarily ingrained human motivations. A religious or political ideology that promises certainty in an uncertain world, a sense of order in the face of chaos, and a strong sense of belonging to a righteous tribe will be incredibly appealing to the subconscious mind, regardless of its logical coherence or factual accuracy. The belief in the ideology is adopted not because of its intellectual merits, but because it satisfies these deep, emotional, existential needs. The elaborate theological or political arguments are often the sophisticated justifications that the conscious mind builds on top of this deep, non-rational foundation. Our hidden desires and fears also play a profound role in shaping our beliefs. The unconscious fear of death, as described by terror management theory, can be a powerful motivator for adopting beliefs that promise a form of literal or symbolic immortality, such as belief in an afterlife or a passionate commitment to a nation or a cause that will outlive us. A hidden desire for power and dominance might lead a person to be drawn to hierarchical and authoritarian belief systems. An unconscious fear of contamination might lead to beliefs centered on purity and disgust. Our belief systems are not just maps of the world, they are also sophisticated psychological tools for managing our deepest anxieties and fulfilling our most fundamental desires. The mind fuck of the subconscious roots of belief is the humbling realization that our own most cherished convictions, the very ideas that define who we are, may not be the products of our own free and rational thought. They may be the echoes of our childhood, the expressions of our temperament, the strategies of our subconscious to manage fear and desire. This questions our very sense of intellectual autonomy. It suggests that our worldview is not a window through which we see the world, but a mirror that reflects the deep, hidden structure of our own psyche. The psychology mystery lies in the complex, bidirectional relationship between the conscious and the subconscious. While the subconscious often sets the initial direction, our conscious thoughts and experiences can, over time, feed back and slowly reshape our subconscious intuitions. Through conscious reflection, through exposure to new experiences, through therapy, or through practices like meditation, we can become more aware of our own underlying motivations and biases. This awareness can allow us to critically examine our inherited beliefs and to more consciously and deliberately choose the values we wish to live by. The writer can, with skill and patience, learn to train and influence the elephant. As you continue to fall asleep, allow your own strongly held beliefs to soften at the edges. See them not as rigid, absolute truths, but as the current position of your mind, a position shaped by a lifetime of experiences, both conscious and unconscious. Acknowledge the deep, powerful, and often unseen roots of these beliefs in your own emotional history, in your temperament, in your deepest needs for safety, meaning, and belonging. You do not need to abandon your beliefs. Simply hold them with a new sense of humility and curiosity. Find deep relaxation in letting go of the need for your beliefs to be a product of pure, dispassionate reason. And instead, appreciate them as a rich, complex, and deeply personal part of your whole being, resting peacefully, with a more compassionate and honest understanding of the profound and often mysterious origins of your own worldview. Memory is fiction. Let us now turn to one of the most profound and deeply personal hidden mind traps, a bias that affects not our perception of the present, but our understanding of our own past. We commonly think of memory as a factual record, a vast mental library or a video archive where our life experiences are faithfully stored and can be retrieved, intact and unchanged. But a century of psychological research has revealed a startling and deeply unsettling truth. Our memory is not a recorder, but a storyteller. It is a dynamic, creative, and profoundly reconstructive process. Every time you recall a past event, you are not simply replaying a memory, your subconscious mind is actively rebuilding it, often changing it in the process. This leads to a profound mind fuck, the realization that our personal history is not a fixed and objective truth, but a form of memory as fiction, a story that the past rewrites itself with every telling. This psychology mystery questions the very authenticity of our life story and our sense of self, inviting deep relaxation through a gentle acceptance of the creative and often compassionate nature of our own minds as you fall asleep. To understand this, we must abandon the storage metaphor for memory. Your brain does not store memories as complete, holistic files. Instead, it stores fragments of an experience, the sensory details, the emotional tone, the semantic information, in various distributed parts of the brain. When you remember something, your prefrontal cortex and hippocampus act like a detective and a director, sending out a call to retrieve these disparate fragments. The brain then weaves these pieces back together into a coherent narrative. And, crucially, in this process of reconstruction, it fills in the gaps. It makes inferences, it smooths over inconsistencies, and it edits the story to make it more coherent and more consistent with your current beliefs, your current mood, and your current self-concept. The memory you experience is not the original event. It is a new, present-moment reconstruction of the event. The work of psychologist Elizabeth Loftus demonstrated the shocking ease with which our memories can be altered. Her research on the misinformation effect showed that simply changing a single word in a question asked after an event could change a person's memory of that event. As we've noted, asking witnesses to a car crash how fast the cars were going when they smashed into each other versus when they hit each other not only changed their speed estimates but also caused some to falsely remember seeing broken glass. This is not just a laboratory trick. It reveals a fundamental property of memory. It is incredibly susceptible to post-event suggestion. Information we encounter after an event can be unconsciously woven into our memory of the event, contaminating the original record. We can come to hold, with absolute confidence, memories of things that never happened. This reconstruction process is not just vulnerable to external suggestion, it is happening internally all the time. The very act of recalling a memory can change it. Each time a memory is brought into conscious awareness, its neural trace becomes temporarily unstable or labile. In this state, it is subject to modification before it is reconsolidated or stored again. New emotions, new insights, or new information can become attached to the memory, subtly altering it for all future recollections. This is why the emotional tone of a memory can change over time. A painful breakup, which at first is remembered with acute agony, may, over the years, be recalled with a sense of wistful nostalgia or even gratitude for the lessons learned. We are not just rereading our past, we are actively co-authoring it with our present self. The mindfuck of memory as fiction is its profound challenge to our sense of a stable, historical self. We believe that we are our memories. Our identity, our sense of who we are, is built upon the story of our past. But if that story is not a factual record, if it is a constantly edited and revised narrative, then what does that say about the self that is built upon it? It suggests that our self-concept is also, in part, a fiction, a story that is constantly being updated to serve our present psychological needs. The you of today is not just a product of your past, you are the active editor of that past. This is a deeply unsettling, but also a potentially liberating realization. The psychology mystery is why our memory system would be so seemingly flawed and unreliable. Why didn't we evolve a more accurate, computer-like memory? From an evolutionary perspective, a perfectly verbatim, reproductive memory might not have been the most adaptive system. A reconstructive memory is incredibly flexible. It allows us to update our knowledge, to learn from new information, and to generalize from past experiences to solve new problems. It is a system designed not for the perfect preservation of the past, but for the effective navigation of the future. The ability to forget irrelevant details is crucial for preventing our minds from being cluttered with useless information. And the ability to soften the emotional impact of negative memories, rosy retrospection, and to find positive meaning in past struggles, effort justification, is essential for maintaining our psychological resilience and well-being. Our memory system seems to be optimized for wisdom and adaptation, not for factual accuracy. It is the memory of a storyteller, not a court stenographer. As you continue to fall asleep, gently bring your awareness to the nature of your own memory. Picture your past not as a fixed, unchangeable landscape, but as a fluid, dreamlike tapestry, a story that is constantly being rewoven by your present mind. Acknowledge the powerful and often helpful way your mind edits, smooths, and finds meaning in the raw data of your life. See this process of memory as fiction not as a flaw, but as a testament to the mind's profound creativity and its deep, abiding need for a coherent and life-affirming story. Let go of the need for your personal history to be a perfect, objective record. Find deep relaxation in the freedom that this idea offers. The freedom to be the compassionate author of your own past, to find new meanings in old stories. Resting peacefully, floating calmly on the gentle, ever-changing and beautifully reconstructed river of your own remembered life. The stories we tell ourselves. Having just explored the profound idea that our memory itself is a form of fiction, a reconstructive process, let us now zoom out and look at the final product of this process. What do we do with these reconstructed memories, these edited life events? We weave them together into a grand, overarching narrative. We turn to the power of the stories we tell ourselves. This is the core concept of the narrative theory of self, which we have touched upon. It proposes that our very sense of identity, of being a continuous and unified self over time, is not a metaphysical thing we discover, but is a story that we actively and often unconsciously construct and maintain. You are the protagonist of an ongoing epic novel that your own mind is writing. The mindfuck of this is the realization that yourself is not a static entity, but a dynamic literary creation, and that the quality of your life is deeply dependent on the quality of the story you choose to tell. This psychology mystery questions the very idea of a true self as something to be found, suggesting instead that the self is something to be authored. Understanding your power as the narrator of your own existence is a pathway to profound freedom and deep relaxation as you fall asleep. Let's begin by appreciating how fundamental storytelling is to the human mind. We are, by nature, Homo narrans, the storytelling ape. We make sense of the world not through lists of facts, but through narratives. Stories have characters, settings, plots, conflicts, and themes. They organize the chaotic stream of events into a coherent, meaningful sequence of cause and effect. The narrative theory of self suggests that we apply this same storytelling instinct to the most important subject of all, ourselves. Our brain, particularly the default mode network, acts as a tireless inner author, taking the raw data of our fragmented memories, our present perceptions, and our future aspirations, and weaving them into the ongoing story of me. This personal narrative serves several crucial psychological functions. Firstly, it provides a sense of identity and continuity. As we've seen, we are in a constant state of flux. Our bodies change, our beliefs change, our feelings change. What holds it all together? The story. The narrative is the thread that connects the child you were, the person you are now, and the person you hope to become, into a single coherent life trajectory. The I is the protagonist who persists through all these changes. This story is what allows you to say, I, and have it mean something consistent over time. Secondly, our life story provides a sense of meaning and purpose. A random sequence of events can feel meaningless. But by arranging these events into a narrative with a plot, we can begin to see a purpose and a direction to our lives. The story can be a tragedy, a comedy, a romance, or a story of redemption, of growth, of overcoming adversity. We often interpret difficult or painful experiences, plot twists, as challenges that were necessary for our growth or that led to some greater good. This is a powerful way of making sense of the suffering in our lives. The story transforms random events into a meaningful destiny or a purposeful journey. Thirdly, our narrative provides a moral compass. The stories we tell about ourselves are implicitly stories about our values. The choices our protagonist, makes in the story reflect our understanding of what is good, right, and important. We tell stories about ourselves as a good person, a hard worker, a loyal friend. And these narratives then guide our future behavior, as we strive to act in a way that is consistent with the character we believe ourselves to be. The mindfuck of the narrative theory of self is its radical claim about creation. We do not have a self that we then tell stories about. The very act of telling the story creates the self. The I is not a pre-existing entity that has experiences. The I is a character that emerges from the narrative interpretation of those experiences. This is a profound reversal of our common-sense intuition. It suggests that selfhood is a creative, artistic, and ongoing process. You are, in every moment, inventing yourself. The psychology mystery lies in the unconscious nature of this authoring process. We are usually not aware that we are telling a story. We believe we are simply recalling the facts of our lives. But our subconscious mind is constantly at work, selecting which memories to highlight, which to downplay, and how to frame the causal connections between them, all in the service of maintaining a coherent and generally positive self-concept. This connects to the choice-supportive bias, where our stories automatically edit our past decisions to make them seem wiser. It connects to rosy retrospection, where our stories paint the past with a warmer glow. Our inner author is a skilled, if not always entirely truthful, biographer. This has immense implications for our mental health and our capacity for change. Psychological distress, from a narrative perspective, can often be understood as a problematic story. A person suffering from depression may be trapped in a life story where they are a helpless victim, where the plot is a relentless series of failures, and the future is a blank page. A person with an anxiety disorder may be living in a story that is a thriller, a narrative dominated by the constant anticipation of future catastrophe. Narrative therapy, a powerful form of psychotherapy, is based on this very insight. The goal is to help a person to become aware of their self-defeating life story and to actively reauthor it. The therapist helps the person to find sparkling moments or exceptions that contradict the problematic narrative, and to weave these into a new, more empowering, and more resilient story. It is the conscious act of taking the pen back from the automatic, subconscious narrator and choosing to write a different kind of story for yourself. This is the ultimate expression of personal freedom. As you continue to fall asleep, gently bring your awareness to the story you tell yourself about your own life. What are its main themes? Is it a story of struggle, of love, of learning, of adventure? Who is the main character, this you, at the center of the tale? Acknowledge this story not as an objective history, but as a creative, meaning-making masterpiece authored by your own mind. See the immense power you hold as the narrator of this story, the power to choose your themes, to reinterpret the past, and to imagine the next chapter. Find deep relaxation in this sense of creative agency. Let go of any fixed, rigid story of who you are, and embrace yourself as an unfolding narrative, a work in progress. Resting peacefully, the author of a unique and precious story, free to dream the chapters of the night and to write a new page tomorrow. The split between the conscious and the unconscious. Our entire journey tonight has orbited around a single, fundamental division in the landscape of the mind. We have spoken of the conscious mind, the seat of our awareness, our reason, our sense of I. And we have explored the vast, hidden world of the unconscious or subconscious, the source of our habits, our intuitions, our dreams, and our deepest desires. Let us now turn our focus directly to the nature of this divide itself, the split between the conscious and the unconscious. What is the nature of this boundary? How do these two realms of the mind interact? And why does this split exist in the first place? This is the ultimate psychology mystery of our inner architecture, the great continental divide of the human psyche. It is a mind fuck that questions the very unity of our being, revealing that we are, in a profound sense, strangers to ourselves, a house divided. Contemplating this fundamental split is not about healing a wound, but about understanding the very structure of our being, a path to deep relaxation and a more integrated understanding of the self as you fall asleep. The discovery of the unconscious was a revolutionary, and for many, a deeply unsettling moment in human thought. The traditional, Cartesian view of the mind was that the mind is consciousness. To be mental is to be aware. The idea that there could be thoughts, feelings, and intentions happening within us that we are not aware of was a radical departure. Sigmund Freud, as we've seen, dramatized this split, envisioning the mind as a battleground. The conscious ego, guided by the reality principle, is in a constant struggle to manage the primal urges of the unconscious ID and the moralistic demands of the superego. The boundary between the conscious and the unconscious, in this view, is a heavily guarded border, maintained by the active force of repression. The split is a product of conflict. Carl Jung offered a different and perhaps more complementary perspective. He also saw the unconscious as a powerful, autonomous realm, but he viewed its relationship with the conscious mind as being more about compensation than just conflict. He believed the psyche is a self-regulating system that is always striving for wholeness. If our conscious attitude becomes too one-sided, for example, too rational, too moralistic, too extrovert, the unconscious will produce dreams, moods, and symbols that represent the opposite, neglected pole in an attempt to restore balance. The split between the conscious and the unconscious, in this view, is a dynamic tension that provides the very energy for psychological growth. The goal is not for the conscious ego to conquer the unconscious, but to enter into a respectful and ongoing dialogue with it, to build a bridge across the divide. Modern neuroscience provides a less dramatic, but equally profound picture of this split. It reveals that the vast majority of the brain's activity is and must be unconscious. As we've explored, the sheer volume of information processing required to perceive the world, regulate the body, and execute complex motor skills is far too vast for our limited conscious workspace. The conscious mind is the CEO, focused on high-level strategy and novel problems. The unconscious mind is the rest of the entire corporation, the millions of employees silently and efficiently carrying out the routine operations. The split, from this perspective, is not about conflict or even compensation. It is about cognitive efficiency. The brain has evolved to automate as much as possible, to free up the precious resource of conscious awareness for the things that truly require it. The mind fuck of the split between the conscious and the unconscious is the profound humbling of our conscious I. It is the realization that the self we identify with, the conscious narrator of our lives, is not the whole story. It is not even the main character in many respects. It is a small focal point of awareness floating on the surface of a vast, deep ocean of unconscious processing. This questions our sense of control, our sense of self-knowledge, and our sense of a unified being. We are, in a very real sense, a duality. We are a conscious, deliberate agent, and we are an unconscious, automatic system, and these two selves are in a constant, complex dance. The psychology mystery is the nature of the interface. How do things cross the boundary? How does an unconscious fear become a conscious feeling of anxiety? How does a creative insight, gestating in the unconscious, suddenly pop into our conscious awareness? How does a conscious intention, I will learn to play the piano, get translated into the slow, unconscious process of building a new habit. This boundary is not a fixed wall, it is a porous, dynamic membrane, and the traffic across it is the very substance of our psychological life. Contemplating this fundamental split can be a source of profound wisdom. It teaches us to be more humble about our own self-knowledge, to recognize that there are vast parts of ourselves that we do not consciously know or control. It encourages us to listen more carefully to the indirect messages of the unconscious, our dreams, our intuitions, our gut feelings, our emotional reactions, as valuable sources of information about our whole self. It can also be a source of immense compassion both for ourselves and for others. When we act in ways that are self-defeating or irrational, an understanding of the conscious/unconscious split allows us to see this not just as a failure of willpower, but as a sign of a deeper, unconscious conflict or pattern at play. As you continue to fall asleep, gently bring your awareness to this deep and fundamental split within your own being. Acknowledge the bright, focused light of your conscious mind, the thoughts, the plans, the awareness that is listening to these words. Now, with a sense of profound respect and wonder, acknowledge the vast, dark, and silent ocean of your unconscious mind that lies beneath it. The source of your habits, your instincts, your deepest memories and feelings. See these two not as enemies but as partners in the dance of your existence, a duality that is the very structure of your psyche. Find deep relaxation in letting go of the need for the conscious self to be in complete control. Trust in the deep wisdom of your entire integrated system, both the seen and the unseen, resting peacefully, allowing the conscious and the unconscious to find their own natural, quiet harmony in the world of sleep. Patterns of self-sabotage. We have just explored the profound split between the conscious and the unconscious, the idea of a house divided against itself. Let us now examine one of the most painful and perplexing consequences of this inner conflict. We will delve into the mystery of patterns of self-sabotage. This is the deeply frustrating experience of unconsciously undermining our own conscious goals and best interests. We consciously want to succeed in a new career, but we find ourselves procrastinating on important tasks. We want a healthy, loving relationship, but we repeatedly push away partners who offer genuine intimacy. We want to be healthy, but we find ourselves engaging in behaviors that we know are harmful. These are not simple mistakes. When they form a repeating pattern, they are often the signature of a deep, unconscious conflict, a secret of the subconscious where one part of us is working in direct opposition to another. This is a profound mindfuck that questions our very sense of a unified will, revealing that our greatest obstacle is often not the external world, but our own unseen mind. Understanding the logic of self-sabotage is a crucial step towards inner peace and deep relaxation as you fall asleep. To understand self-sabotage, we must first appreciate that, from a psychological perspective, no behavior exists without a reason. Even the most self-destructive actions are often a misguided attempt to meet a legitimate, though often unconscious, need. Self-sabotage happens when the subconscious mind's strategy for meeting a need, for example, the need for safety, directly conflicts with the conscious mind's goal, for example, the goal of success. The behavior seems irrational from the ego's perspective, but from the subconscious's perspective, it is a perfectly logical attempt to protect you from a perceived danger. Let's explore some of the deep, subconscious roots of these patterns. One of the most common is a deep-seated fear of success. This may seem paradoxical. Why would anyone fear success? But for the subconscious, success can be associated with a host of threats. Success might mean being more visible, which could lead to criticism and judgment from others. It might mean having to take on more responsibility with a greater risk of failure. It might mean surpassing a parent or a sibling, which could unconsciously feel like an act of betrayal that would threaten your sense of belonging to your family tribe. It might even mean that you will have no more excuses for your unhappiness. As long as you are striving, you can blame your unhappiness on your circumstances. If you actually succeed and you are still unhappy, you will have to confront a deeper existential unease. So, the subconscious, in a misguided attempt to protect you from these perceived dangers of success, will engineer failure. It will make you procrastinate, forget important deadlines, or make careless errors, all to keep you safely in the familiar territory of almost succeeding. Another powerful root of self-sabotage is a low sense of self-worth or unworthiness, often stemming from early childhood experiences. If, at a deep, subconscious level, you hold the core belief that you are not worthy of love, happiness, or success, then when you start to achieve these things, it creates a profound state of cognitive dissonance. The external reality of success clashes with your internal reality of unworthiness. To resolve this dissonance, the subconscious will often find a way to sabotage the success, thereby restoring consistency with your core belief about yourself. You might pick a fight in a healthy relationship, overspend after getting a raise, or find a way to fail after a major achievement. The mystery is that this act of self-destruction can feel, at a deep level, like a restoration of order, a return to the familiar, if painful, identity of being unworthy. The fear of intimacy is another major driver of self-sabotage in relationships. We might consciously crave a deep, loving connection. But if our subconscious mind, perhaps due to past betrayals or a fear of being engulfed, equates intimacy with a threat to our safety or our independence, it will find ways to keep others at a distance. We might unconsciously pick partners who are emotionally unavailable, or we might find fault with and push away partners who offer genuine closeness. The pattern of self-sabotage protects the subconscious from the perceived danger of vulnerability. The mindfuck of self-sabotage is the profound and often tragic sense of being a prisoner of your own mind. It is the experience of having your foot on the accelerator and the brake at the same time. It questions the very idea of a unified I that wants a single thing. It reveals that the psyche is a complex system of competing hidden desires and fears. The part of you that wants success is at war with the part of you that fears it. The part of you that wants love is in conflict with the part of you that is terrified of it. The self-sabotaging behavior is the external symptom of this deep, internal civil war. So, how can we begin to unravel these self-defeating patterns? The path is one of deep self-awareness and self-compassion. It is not about using willpower to crush the sabotaging part of yourself. That part is just trying to protect you in a misguided way, and fighting it often just makes it stronger. Instead, the path is one of listening. It is the courageous work of turning towards the self-sabotaging behavior with curiosity, rather than judgment. You can begin to ask the questions: what is this behavior protecting me from? What is the fear that lies beneath this pattern? What old story or belief is this behavior trying to affirm? This is the work of bringing the shadow mind into the light. The self-sabotaging impulse is often a part of our shadow. By listening to it, by trying to understand its positive intention, even if its strategy is destructive, we can begin to build a new relationship with it. We can consciously acknowledge the fear of success, or the feeling of unworthiness, or the fear of intimacy. By bringing these feelings into our conscious awareness, we can begin to heal them. We can use our adult mind to reassure that younger, frightened part of ourselves. We can find new, more constructive ways to feel safe, to build self-worth, and to navigate relationships. This is the process of integration, of making the two warring factions within us into conscious allies. As you continue to fall asleep, gently bring your awareness to any patterns of self-sabotage you might recognize in your own life. A recurring way that you seem to get in your own way. Do not judge this pattern. Do not feel shame. Instead, hold it with a sense of gentle, compassionate curiosity. See it not as a flaw, but as a misguided attempt by a part of your subconscious mind to protect you from a hidden and perhaps ancient fear. Contemplate the profound possibility of building a new, more collaborative relationship with this part of yourself. A relationship based on listening and understanding, not on conflict. Find deep relaxation in the release from self-blame, in the compassionate understanding that the path to wholeness is not about eliminating your bad parts, but about integrating them. Resting peacefully with a new sense of compassion for the complex, mysterious, and often conflicted workings of your own beautiful mind. The comfort of cognitive illusions. We have spent much of our journey tonight exploring the hidden mind traps and subtle biases that distort our perception of reality. We have seen how our minds are not perfect, rational instruments, but are prone to a host of systematic errors, illusions, and self-deceptions. Our first impulse might be to see these as flaws, as bugs in our mental software that we should strive to eliminate. But let us now turn to a more compassionate and deeply paradoxical perspective. Let us contemplate the comfort of cognitive illusions. What if these biases and illusions are not just errors? What if they are, in fact, essential and highly adaptive psychological mechanisms that protect our mental health, motivate our actions, and allow us to function in a world that might otherwise be overwhelmingly terrifying and chaotic? This is a profound mindfuck that questions our very ideal of perfect rationality, suggesting that a certain degree of self-deception might be necessary for a happy and healthy life. Understanding the purpose behind our illusions is a path to a more forgiving self-awareness and a state of deep, accepting relaxation as you fall asleep. Let's begin by considering a cluster of biases often referred to as positive illusions, first described in detail by psychologists Shelley Taylor and Jonathan Brown. They identified three main types of unrealistically positive beliefs that most mentally healthy people tend to hold about themselves and the world. The first is that we have unrealistically positive views of the self. Most people tend to see themselves as better than average. We believe we are more intelligent, more competent, more ethical, and a better driver than the average person. Statistically, of course, this is impossible. We can't all be above average. This is a subtle, self-enhancing illusion, a way of maintaining a healthy level of self-esteem. The second positive illusion is the illusion of control, which we have already explored. We consistently overestimate our ability to control events, even those that are purely a matter of chance. This belief, while objectively false, is a powerful psychological engine. It motivates us to take on new challenges, to persist in the face of setbacks, and to feel a sense of agency and empowerment in our lives. A person with a perfectly realistic assessment of their own limited control over the world might be too cautious or too fatalistic to even try. The third positive illusion is unrealistic optimism, a form of the optimism bias. Most people tend to believe that their own future will be better than that of their peers, and that they are less likely to experience negative events like illness, divorce, or job loss. This optimistic outlook, while statistically unfounded, is crucial for our mental health. It encourages us to make long-term investments in our future, to form relationships, and to get out of bed in the morning with a sense of hope. Intriguingly, research has shown that it is often people who are suffering from depression who have a more realistic and less biased view of themselves and their own abilities, a phenomenon known as depressive realism. This suggests that a certain dose of positive illusion may be a crucial component of normal, healthy psychological functioning. The mindfuck of this is profound. It suggests that a perfectly rational and objective perception of reality might be incompatible with psychological well-being. It questions the very ideal of seeing things as they are. Perhaps our minds are not designed for truth. They are designed for survival and reproduction, and a certain degree of self-deceptive, rose-tinted filtering is an adaptive strategy for achieving those goals. The comfort of cognitive illusions is the comfort of a psychological immune system, a set of biases that protects our fragile ego from the harsh and often discouraging realities of the world. Let's consider other comfortable illusions we've explored. The just world fallacy, the belief that the world is fair and that people get what they deserve, is an illusion that protects us from the terrifying anxiety of living in a random and often unjust world. The choice supportive bias, which makes us remember our choices as better than they were, protects us from the pain of regret. Rosy retrospection protects our past, and the planning fallacy protects our future, all within a comforting glow of positive bias. These are not just errors, they are our mind's powerful coping mechanisms. They are the stories we tell ourselves to stay sane. The psychology mystery lies in the delicate balance. How much illusion is healthy, and when does it become maladaptive? A moderate level of optimism can be a powerful, self-fulfilling prophecy, motivating us to achieve our goals. But an extreme level of optimism can lead to reckless risk-taking and a failure to prepare for foreseeable problems. A gentle, choice-supportive bias can help us feel good about our life, but a complete inability to see our past mistakes can prevent us from learning and growing. The psychologically healthy mind seems to be one that can maintain a delicate and often unconscious balance between a realistic appraisal of the world and a set of gently self-enhancing illusions. This perspective invites a profound sense of self-compassion. It suggests that our biases and illusions are not character flaws to be ruthlessly eliminated. They are a part of our shared human nature, the predictable workings of a mind that is trying its best to keep us safe, motivated, and hopeful in a challenging world. The goal of self-awareness is not to become a perfectly rational, illusion-free being, which might be a cold and joyless existence, but to become more mindful of our illusions. By understanding why our mind is drawn to these comforting beliefs, we can hold them more lightly. We can learn to question our own optimism when making a high-stakes decision, or to recognize the pull of the just world fallacy when we are tempted to blame a victim. As you continue to fall asleep, gently bring your awareness to the comforting stories your mind tells you. The belief in your own above-average abilities, the quiet confidence in your control over your life, the gentle, hopeful glow you cast upon your future. Acknowledge these cognitive illusions not as lies, but as a form of psychological kindness, your mind's way of protecting your hope and your self-esteem. Let go of the need to be a perfect, objective observer of a harsh reality. Find deep relaxation in the compassionate acceptance of your own beautifully biased and deeply human mind. Trust in its deep, ancient wisdom to provide you with the level of illusion you need to navigate your life with resilience and hope, resting peacefully, wrapped in the gentle, comforting, and wonderfully protective embrace of your own mind. Projection. We have just explored the comforting illusions our minds create to protect our view of ourselves. Let us now turn to a powerful and often more problematic illusion that shapes our view of others. We will revisit and dive deeper into the hidden mind trap of projection. As we have touched upon in other journeys, psychological projection is the unconscious defense mechanism of taking our own unacceptable or unwanted feelings, traits, or desires and attributing them to someone else. It is the mental act of taking a piece of our own inner shadow mind and seeing it not within ourselves, but as an objective reality in the world outside. I am not angry, you are angry. I am not insecure, they are insecure. The mystery of projection is its seamless and utterly convincing nature. When we are projecting, we do not feel like we are interpreting. We feel like we are perceiving a self-evident truth about the other person. This is a profound mindfuck that questions the very objectivity of our social perceptions, revealing that the world we see is often a mirror, reflecting back the disowned parts of our own psyche. Understanding this mechanism is a crucial key to self-awareness and healthier relationships, inviting deep relaxation through the challenging, but ultimately liberating process of reclaiming our own projected parts as you fall asleep. Let's begin by understanding why we project. The process is a sophisticated two-stage defense of the ego. The first stage is repression. As we've seen, we all have parts of ourselves that we find unacceptable, parts that clash with our conscious self-image or our moral ideals. These are the contents of our shadow mind: our greed, our envy, our anger, our vulnerability, our suppressed desires. The ego actively pushes these traits out of our conscious awareness to maintain a positive and consistent self-concept. But repression is often not enough. The energy of these repressed traits still exists in the subconscious, creating an internal tension. This is where the second stage, projection, comes in. The ego takes this disowned trait and projects it like a movie onto an external screen, usually another person or group. The unwanted trait is now located out there. This serves two powerful psychological purposes. First, it allows us to maintain our own sense of purity and goodness. The problem is no longer inside me, it's outside me. Second, it gives us a seemingly legitimate target for our own negative feelings. We can now criticize, judge, and attack our own disowned trait, but we do so by attacking the person onto whom we have projected it. The internal battle becomes an external one, which often feels safer and more self-righteous. The mindfuck of projection is the profound way it distorts our social reality. The world becomes populated not just by other people, but by the disowned ghosts of our own inner life. The people who provoke the most intense and irrational emotional reactions in us, the ones we can't stand, the ones who get under our skin, are often the primary carriers of our projections. They are the mirrors showing us the parts of ourselves we refuse to own. A person who has repressed their own need for attention might be intensely irritated by someone they perceive as an attention seeker. A person who has disowned their own vulnerability might feel a deep contempt for people they see as weak or needy. The stronger and more rigid our own self-concept, the more we need to project the parts that don't fit. This is a hidden mind trap of immense consequence. It is a primary engine of interpersonal conflict. Many intractable arguments in relationships are fueled by mutual projections, with each person attacking the disowned parts of themselves that they see in their partner. On a societal level, projection is the psychological fuel for scapegoating, prejudice, and the most extreme forms of us versus them thinking. It is far easier for a group to project its own collective shadow, its fears, its failings, its aggression, onto a designated outgroup than to confront those qualities within itself. The outgroup then becomes the container for all that is evil, justifying the in-group's hostility and sense of moral superiority. The psychology mystery lies in the completely convincing nature of the illusion. When we are in the grip of a powerful projection, it does not feel like an interpretation. The other person's arrogance, laziness, or malice feels like an objective, undeniable fact. Our perception is charged with the emotional energy of our own repressed content, which gives it an intense feeling of certainty. The mind's own defense mechanism is so effective that it becomes completely invisible to us. We believe we are seeing the world when in fact, we are seeing a reflection of our own unseen mind. So, how do we begin the difficult work of withdrawing our projections and seeing the world more clearly? The key is to learn to use our own strong emotional reactions as a compass. When you have a disproportionately strong, emotionally charged, and often moralistic reaction to someone, this is a red flag. It is a clue that a projection may be at play. The practice is to pause, and in that pause, to turn the lens of inquiry inward. You can ask the courageous and difficult question: is the quality that is bothering me so much in this person also, in some way, a quality that I possess but have not acknowledged in myself? This is not to say that the other person is blameless or that your perception is entirely false. They may very well be arrogant or lazy. The key is the emotional charge. The excessive energy of your reaction often belongs to your own disowned material. Withdrawing the projection does not mean condoning the other person's behavior. It means taking responsibility for your own emotional baggage, separating your stuff from their stuff. When you do this, you can often see the other person more clearly and deal with them more effectively, because you are no longer blinded by the smoke of your own unconscious conflict. As you continue to fall asleep, gently bring your awareness to your relationships with others. Think of the people who inspire strong feelings in you, both positive and negative. Contemplate the profound and subtle possibility of projection, the idea that you might be seeing yourself in others. Acknowledge the deep, protective wisdom of this mechanism, your mind's attempt to keep your self-concept clean and consistent. Now, with a sense of gentle, compassionate curiosity, entertain the idea of calling your projections home, of owning the full spectrum of your own humanity, both the light and the shadow. Find deep relaxation in the profound humility and self-awareness this brings. The world becomes less a courtroom for judging others, and more a mirror for understanding yourself, resting peacefully in a quieter, less reactive, and more wholehearted relationship with the world. Emotional conditioning and learned responses. Let us now delve into one of the most fundamental and powerful mechanisms by which our subconscious mind learns and shapes our behavior. We will explore the world of emotional conditioning and learned responses. This is the process by which our minds create automatic, often powerful, emotional and physiological reactions to stimuli that were once neutral. It is the reason why the smell of a certain perfume can instantly transport you back to a specific memory and feeling, why a particular song can make your heart ache, or why the sight of a specific place can trigger a wave of anxiety, all without your conscious consent. Emotional conditioning is a deep secret of the subconscious, a psychology mystery that reveals how our past experiences are not just stored as memories, but are encoded into our very nervous systems as automatic, learned responses. This is a mindfuck that questions our sense of emotional freedom, revealing how much of our present-day feeling state is an echo of the past. Understanding this process is a key to untangling our own emotional triggers, inviting deep relaxation through a gentle awareness of the mind's associative machinery as you fall asleep. The scientific understanding of this process begins with the work of Ivan Pavlov and his famous experiments with dogs. Pavlov, a physiologist, noticed that his dogs would begin to salivate not just when they were presented with food, but also when they saw the lab assistant who usually fed them, or even just heard the sound of their footsteps. He realized the dogs had learned to associate the neutral stimulus, the assistant, the footsteps, with the biologically potent stimulus, the food. This process, which he called classical conditioning, is a fundamental learning mechanism. An unconditioned stimulus, food, naturally elicits an unconditioned response, salivation. When a neutral stimulus, a bell, is repeatedly paired with the unconditioned stimulus, the neutral stimulus eventually becomes a conditioned stimulus, capable of eliciting the response all on its own. The dog salivates at the sound of the bell. While Pavlov studied a simple physiological reflex, this same principle applies to our complex emotional lives. Our emotions can become conditioned to previously neutral people, places, or things. Imagine a child who has a frightening experience in a dark room. The darkness, a relatively neutral stimulus, becomes associated with the intense fear, the unconditioned response. Later in life, that person might experience a powerful, seemingly irrational fear of the dark or of enclosed spaces, a phobia. This is a learned response. Their subconscious mind has forged a powerful automatic link between darkness and danger. The conscious mind may know there is nothing to fear, but the conditioned emotional response, which operates much faster and more primitively, is triggered anyway. This is the hidden machinery of how many of our anxieties and phobias are born. This process is not limited to fear. Any powerful emotional experience can create a conditioned response. The particular song that was playing during your first romance can become a powerful conditioned stimulus for feelings of love and nostalgia for the rest of your life. The smell of a hospital can become a conditioned stimulus for feelings of anxiety and dread. The taste of a specific food you ate just before getting sick can become a conditioned stimulus for nausea, even years later, a phenomenon known as taste aversion. Our lives are a constant process of creating these emotional associations, weaving a rich and sometimes difficult tapestry of triggers in our subconscious mind. This is a form of implicit memory. We do not have to consciously remember the original conditioning event for the emotional response to be triggered. The association is stored at a deep, nonverbal, and often inaccessible level of our memory system, primarily in the amygdala, the brain's emotional processing center. This is why our emotional reactions can sometimes feel so mysterious and out of our control. We are reacting to the echoes of a past that our conscious mind may have forgotten. The emotional body remembers even when the narrative mind does not. The mind fuck of emotional conditioning is the profound realization that you are not as free in your emotional life as you think you are. Your present moment is constantly being influenced and shaped by a web of associations from your past. The people you are instantly drawn to, and the people you are instantly repelled by, may be triggering unconscious associations with significant figures from your early life. Your intuitive reactions are often, in fact, these powerful learned responses. This questions the very idea of a purely spontaneous or authentic emotional reaction, suggesting that much of what we feel is a replaying of old, deeply ingrained scripts. The psychology mystery lies in the specificity and the persistence of these conditioned responses. Why do some experiences create powerful, lifelong triggers, while others fade away? The intensity of the original emotion seems to be a key factor. Traumatic events, because of the high levels of stress hormones released, seem to burn the association into our neural circuitry with particular strength. The mystery also lies in how these associations can be so specific, a particular tone of voice, a certain quality of light, and yet also generalized to similar stimuli. So, are we simply puppets of our past conditioning? Not entirely. While these responses are automatic, they are not unchangeable. The psychological process of extinction is the key to unlearning these conditioned responses. Extinction involves repeatedly exposing yourself to the conditioned stimulus, the trigger, in the absence of the feared outcome or the original unconditioned stimulus. For a person with a phobia of elevators, this might involve a gradual, therapeutic process of approaching an elevator, then standing in it with the door open, then taking a short ride, all in a safe and controlled context. Over time, the brain learns a new association. Elevator does not equal danger. The old fear pathway is not erased, but a new, competing pathway of safety is built, which can eventually become stronger and more dominant. This is the basis of many effective therapies for anxiety and trauma. It is the slow, courageous work of reprogramming the hidden mind. As you continue to fall asleep, gently bring your awareness to the rich and complex tapestry of your own emotional life. Acknowledge that some of your feelings, your attractions, your aversions, are not just of this moment, but are emotional echoes from your past, echoes of old joys, old hurts, old fears. See these learned responses not as your enemies, but as the tracks left behind by your life's journey, the deep patterns etched into your subconscious mind. You do not need to analyze or change them now. Simply acknowledge their presence with a sense of compassionate understanding. Find deep relaxation in the knowledge that while the past shapes us, it does not have to be our prison. By bringing a gentle, non-judgmental awareness to our own conditioned responses, we begin to loosen their automatic grip, resting peacefully, allowing the echoes of the past to soften, to fade, and to resolve into the quiet, present stillness of this moment. The subtle influence of the body on the mind. We often speak of the mind and the body as if they are two separate entities, a conscious I that inhabits a physical vehicle. Let us now delve into a hidden mind trap that arises from this very illusion of separation. We will explore the subtle influence of the body on the mind. We have touched upon this with concepts like somatic markers and embodied perception, but let us now synthesize these ideas and appreciate their profound and pervasive impact. The traditional view is that the mind is the master, sending commands down to the passive body. But a wealth of scientific evidence reveals that the communication is a rich, constant, and two-way street, and that the bottom-up signals from the body to the brain are powerful, and often unconscious, drivers of our thoughts, our moods, and our decisions. The mystery of this deep integration is a mind fuck that questions the very location of our self, suggesting that we do not have a body but that we are a body-mind. Understanding this seamless unity is a direct pathway to deep relaxation as you fall asleep. Let's begin with the very posture you are in right now. The simple act of adopting a certain physical posture sends a cascade of signals to your brain that can influence your emotional state and your thoughts. Social psychologist Amy Cuddy's research on power posing demonstrated that adopting an expansive, open, high-power posture for just a few minutes can increase feelings of confidence and decrease feelings of anxiety. Conversely, adopting a slumped, constricted, low-power posture can have the opposite effect. This is not just a psychological trick. It can be accompanied by measurable physiological changes in hormones like testosterone and cortisol. This is a simple, direct example of the body guiding the mind. The state of your physical frame is constantly feeding back information that shapes your emotional and cognitive experience. This principle extends to your facial expressions. The facial feedback hypothesis, which we've briefly noted, suggests that the simple act of arranging your facial muscles into a smile can, in fact, make you feel happier. The physical action sends sensory feedback to the brain that is interpreted as, and can even generate, the corresponding emotion. We don't just smile because we are happy, we can feel happier because we smile. This feedback loop is so powerful that studies have shown that people who have had their frowning muscles paralyzed by Botox injections report feeling less intense negative emotions. By inhibiting the physical expression of the emotion, they have subtly dampened the emotional experience itself. Let us now journey deeper into the internal landscape of the body, into the world of interoception. As we've explored, this is your brain's sense of the physiological condition of your entire body. The constant stream of information from your heart, your lungs, your gut, and your endocrine system creates a foundational feeling tone for all of your conscious experience. The subtle, often unconscious, fluctuations in this internal state are the raw material for our moods. A feeling of anxiety is not just an abstract thought. It is the conscious experience of a racing heart, shallow breathing, and a tense gut. A feeling of calm is the experience of a slow heart rate, deep breathing, and a relaxed viscera. Our emotions are deeply and perhaps primarily embodied. The gut-brain axis is a particularly profound example of this subtle influence. Your digestive tract is lined with hundreds of millions of neurons, the second brain. And it is home to a vast and complex ecosystem of trillions of microbes, the gut microbiome. This gut system is in constant, direct communication with your brain via the vagus nerve. The health and state of your gut microbiome can have a staggering impact on your mood, your anxiety levels, and even your cognitive function. The signals from your gut are a powerful and largely subconscious force shaping your mental world. The gut feelings that we experience as intuition are a direct manifestation of this deep mind-body dialogue. The mind fuck of this embodied perspective is its complete reversal of our normal causal story. We think, I am sad, therefore my body is slumping and my heart feels heavy. The embodied view suggests it can be equally true to say, my body is slumping and my heart feels heavy, therefore I am experiencing sadness. The mind and body are not a linear chain of command, but a complex, resonant feedback loop. Your thoughts affect your body and your body profoundly affects your thoughts, in a continuous, inseparable dance. This questions the very idea of a disembodied, purely rational self that is in charge. It suggests that our self is a holistic property of the entire integrated organism. The psychology mystery lies in the richness and specificity of this communication. How do the precise patterns of our breathing influence our attentional states? How do the specific chemicals produced by our gut bacteria influence our mood and our social behavior? How does the subtle tension in our shoulders shape our perception of threat? We are only just beginning to map this intricate, alingual conversation between the body and the brain. What we are discovering is that the body is not just a passive vehicle for the mind. It is an active and intelligent partner in the creation of our reality. This understanding has profound implications for our well-being. It validates the ancient wisdom of contemplative traditions that have always emphasized the importance of the body in spiritual and psychological practice. Practices like yoga, tai chi, and breathwork. It suggests that one of the most powerful ways to change your mind is to change your body. If you are feeling anxious, taking a few slow, deep breaths is not just a distraction. It is a direct intervention, sending a powerful signal of safety from your body up to your brain, calming the nervous system. If you are feeling down, simply changing your posture, standing up straighter, can create a subtle but real shift in your emotional state. As you continue to fall asleep, bring your full, gentle awareness to the physical reality of your body. Feel the gentle weight of it, the warmth, the subtle aliveness. Acknowledge the constant, silent conversation that is happening within, the rhythm of your heart, the flow of your breath, the quiet workings of your inner systems. See these not as separate from your mind, but as the very foundation of your mind, the source of your deepest feelings, the anchor of your subjective experience. Let go of the idea of being a mind trapped in a body, and instead find deep relaxation in the profound feeling of being a single, unified, and deeply intelligent body-mind, resting peacefully, listening to the quiet, wise, and ancient language of your own physical being. Archetypes and collective patterns. We have journeyed through the personal, often hidden landscapes of our own minds, exploring the biases, memories, and habits that shape our individual lives. Let us now zoom out to contemplate a secret of the subconscious that is not just personal but collective, a hidden mind trap that is also a source of profound meaning and connection. We will explore the world of archetypes and collective patterns. This is a concept most famously developed by the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, a student of Freud who broke away to map his own vaster vision of the human psyche. Jung proposed that beneath our individual, personal unconscious, there lies a deeper and more universal layer which he called the collective unconscious. This is a kind of inherited psychic blueprint, a shared foundation of the human mind that contains archetypes, universal, primordial images, patterns, and themes that have structured human experience and imagination for all of time. The mystery of these archetypes is their powerful, autonomous, and universal presence in our myths, our religions, our fairy tales, and most intimately in our own dreams. The mindfuck is the realization that your own personal psychology might be shaped by these ancient, impersonal, collective patterns, questioning the very idea of a purely individual self and suggesting that your mind is connected to a deep, ancestral river of human experience. Contemplating this shared inner heritage can be a source of profound connection and deep relaxation as you fall asleep. Let's begin by understanding what an archetype is. It is not a specific, inherited image or idea. Rather, it is an innate, universal predisposition to experience, perceive, and respond to the world in certain typical human ways. It is a form without content, a kind of psychological instinct or a psychic organ that we are all born with. This archetypal potential is then filled in with the specific content of our personal lives and our culture. Consider the mother archetype. We are all born with an innate capacity and readiness to experience a mothering principle. This archetype contains the full spectrum of the maternal experience, the loving, nurturing, life-giving good mother, but also the devouring, smothering, and guilt-inducing terrible mother. This innate, archetypal pattern is first projected onto our personal, biological mother. Our relationship with her gives our mother archetype its specific, personal content. But the archetype is larger than our personal mother. We continue to encounter it throughout our lives, projecting it onto other nurturing figures, onto Mother Nature, onto institutions that care for us, our alma mater, or onto our creative work. The archetype is the universal pattern. The experience is the personal manifestation. The collective unconscious, for Jung, is the realm of these archetypes. It is the inherited, shared psychological structure of humanity. Jung discovered this not through speculation, but through his deep and extensive study of world mythology, religion, and alchemy, and through the dreams and fantasies of his patients. He noticed that the same fundamental motifs, symbols, and characters appeared again and again, in different cultures and different historical eras, and in the dreams of modern individuals who had no conscious knowledge of these ancient stories. He saw the myth of the hero with his miraculous birth, his struggle against a dragon or monster, his ultimate triumph, and his transformation, as the universal story of the ego's journey towards consciousness and integration. He saw the shadow, which we have explored, as the universal archetype of our disowned self. He identified the wise old man or wise old woman as the archetype of meaning and wisdom, the trickster as the archetype of disruption and playful chaos, and the anima/animus as the archetypes of the inner, contrasexual soul image. The mind-fuck of the collective unconscious and its archetypes is its radical challenge to our modern Lockean view of the mind as a blank slate at birth. It suggests that we are not born empty, but are born into a rich, ancient, and powerful world of pre-existing psychological patterns. It questions our sense of individuality, suggesting that our deepest psychic structures are not personal but universal. Your personal story in this view, is a unique variation on a set of timeless, archetypal themes. The great dramas of your life, your search for love, your struggle for autonomy, your confrontation with your own darkness, your quest for meaning, are individual enactments of the same mythic patterns that have been played out by countless human beings before you. This doesn't diminish the significance of your personal experience, but it places it within a vast, transpersonal, and deeply meaningful context. The psychology mystery lies in the mechanism of inheritance. How are these collective patterns passed down from one generation to the next? Jung himself was not a genetic determinist and remained somewhat agnostic about the precise mechanism. He saw it as a kind of psychological inheritance, analogous to our biological instincts. In a modern context, we might speculate about the role of evolutionary psychology, the idea that these patterns are the result of cognitive adaptations that have been wired into our shared human brain structure over millions of years. Or we might see them as being transmitted through the deep, underlying structures of language and culture, which we internalize from the moment we are born. The mystery remains: why do the same fundamental stories and symbols resonate so powerfully with us, regardless of our personal background? Understanding archetypes provides a powerful tool for self-exploration. By paying attention to the patterns in our own lives and our dreams, we can begin to identify which archetypal forces are most active in our psyche. Are we living out a hero's journey? Are we being confronted by our shadow? Are we searching for a connection to our anima or animus? Recognizing these patterns can provide a profound sense of meaning and direction. It can help us to see that our personal struggles are not just our problems, but are part of the universal human condition, the shared work of becoming a more conscious and whole individual. The language of symbols, which we have explored, is the native tongue of the archetypes. As you continue to fall asleep, allow your sense of a purely personal biographical self to expand. Imagine your own mind as a single unique island, and then become aware that, beneath the surface of the water, your island is connected to a vast shared continent, the collective unconscious. Feel the deep, ancient, and powerful patterns of the archetypes that form this shared foundation. The hero, the shadow, the mother, the wise old one. You do not need to understand them all. Simply acknowledge their potential presence within you, the inherited, symbolic DNA of the human psyche. Find deep relaxation in this profound sense of connection to all of humanity, past and present. Recognize that your own life story, in all its uniqueness, is also a beautiful variation on a set of timeless, universal themes. Resting peacefully, a part of the grand, mysterious, and deeply meaningful story of the collective human soul. Synchronicities and the search for meaning. We have just explored the Jungian idea of the collective unconscious, a hidden, archetypal layer of reality that connects our inner world to a shared human heritage. Let us now turn to one of the most mysterious, controversial, and deeply personal ways that this hidden realm might make its presence known in our waking lives. We will delve into the enigmatic concept of synchronicities. The term, also coined by Carl Jung, refers to the experience of a meaningful coincidence, a moment when an event in the external physical world seems to have a miraculous and meaningful connection to your internal psychological world. A thought, a dream, a feeling, yet with no discernible causal link between the two. It is the experience of thinking about a long-lost friend, and the phone rings and it is them. It is the experience of having a powerful dream about a specific, unusual symbol, and then seeing that exact symbol in the real world the very next day. While a skeptic would dismiss these events as mere chance and our pattern-seeking minds projecting meaning, for Jung, and for the many who experience them, synchronicities can feel like a profound wink from the universe, a hint of a hidden order. The mystery of synchronicity is a mindfuck that questions the very principle of causality, suggesting that reality might be ordered not just by cause and effect, but also by meaning. Let's be clear about what distinguishes a synchronicity from a simple coincidence. The laws of probability dictate that improbable events will, given enough time, eventually happen. It is a coincidence but not necessarily a synchronicity if two people in a large company discover they have the same birthday. A synchronicity requires two key ingredients: the acausal connection of two or more events, and a profound, subjective sense of meaning for the person who experiences it. The meaning is not in the external event itself, but in the timing of its appearance in relation to the individual's inner state. Jung's classic example, which we have touched upon, involved one of his patients who was stuck in a state of rigid, overly rational thinking. She recounted a powerful dream she had had the night before, in which she was given a golden scarab beetle. At the very moment she was describing this dream image, Jung heard a gentle tapping at the window behind him. He turned, opened the window, and caught a small, flying insect. It was a common rosechafer beetle which, with its golden-green coloring, was the closest analogy to a golden scarab he could find in his climate. He presented it to his patient, saying, "Here is your scarab." The sheer, impossible timeliness of this event shattered the patient's rigid rationalism and led to a breakthrough in her therapy. For Jung, this was not just a coincidence. The internal event, the dream of the scarab, and the external event, the appearance of the beetle, were linked acausally by their shared meaning, which was directly relevant to the patient's psychological task of breaking free from her rationalistic shell. The mind fuck of synchronicity is its radical challenge to our scientific cause and effect worldview. Our entire understanding of the universe is built on the principle of causality. Events are connected by a physical chain of cause and effect. Synchronicity proposes that there might be another, complementary ordering principle at work in the universe, a principle of meaning. It suggests that the universe is not just a clockwork machine of physical causes, but might also be a kind of unfolding story, a tapestry where events can be connected by their symbolic or thematic resonance. This is a profound and deeply unsettling idea for a purely materialistic worldview. It suggests that the split between our inner, subjective world and the outer, objective world might not be as absolute as we believe, that there might be a deep, underlying unity, an unus mundus or one world, where mind and matter are not separate. So, what is the explanation for these powerful experiences? The skeptical and more mainstream psychological view is that synchronicities are a beautiful and powerful illusion, a product of several cognitive biases we have explored. Confirmation bias leads us to notice and remember the one time we thought of a friend and they called, while forgetting the thousands of times we thought of them and they didn't. The Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, frequency illusion, explains why, after becoming interested in a topic, we suddenly seem to see it everywhere. And our innate drive for pattern recognition and meaning-making apophenia can lead us to impose a narrative of significance onto what are, in reality, just the workings of statistical chance. In this view, the meaning is not in the world. It is projected by our own subconscious mind, which is constantly scanning the world for information that is relevant to its current emotional and psychological state. Jung, however, believed this psychological explanation was incomplete. While he acknowledged the role of projection, he felt that some synchronicities were so improbable and so precisely meaningful that they pointed to a genuine acausal connecting principle. He hypothesized that archetypes, which are primarily structures of the psyche, also have a psychoid aspect, meaning they are not purely mental but can extend into the physical world, organizing events in a meaningful but not causal way. When an archetype is strongly activated in an individual's subconscious, it can, in rare moments, manifest in both the inner world as a dream or vision, and the outer world as a physical event. The psychology mystery of synchronicity is that it is, by its very nature, unfalsifiable and deeply personal. There is no objective experiment we can design that can definitively prove or disprove that a coincidence was meaningful in a cosmic sense. The meaning is in the eye of the beholder. The experience is its own evidence. And for the person who has a profound synchronistic experience, the feeling of significance can be so powerful that no statistical argument can explain it away. Whether you choose to see synchronicities as a message from the deep, ordering intelligence of the cosmos, or as a message from the deep, pattern-seeking intelligence of your own subconscious mind, their psychological function can be the same. They can serve as powerful moments of affirmation and encouragement, making us feel seen and guided by a larger reality. They can jolt us out of a stale, overly rationalistic perspective and reawaken a sense of wonder and mystery. They can bring our attention to important psychological themes we need to address. They are, in a sense, a form of personalized real-world dream symbolism. As you continue to fall asleep, gently hold in your mind the concept of meaningful coincidence. Recall a time in your own life when the inner and outer world seemed to align in a strange and significant way. You do not need to decide on an ultimate explanation. Let go of the need to distinguish between a message from the universe and a message from your own deep subconscious. Perhaps, at the deepest level, they are one and the same. Find deep relaxation in the profound possibility that you live in a universe that is not just a collection of random facts, but a place that can be filled with meaning and resonance. Resting peacefully, open to the subtle, mysterious, and beautifully meaningful patterns of existence. Creativity and the subconscious flow. We have spent much of our journey exploring the hidden, automatic, and sometimes darker aspects of the subconscious mind. Let us now turn to one of its most celebrated, most desired, and most mysterious functions: its role as the wellspring of creativity and the engine of the subconscious flow. Where do new ideas, truly original insights, and works of breathtaking art come from? While conscious effort, skill, and knowledge are essential, many of the greatest creators throughout history have described their most profound breakthroughs not as acts of deliberate, logical thought, but as moments of effortless reception, of being a channel for something that seemed to emerge from a source beyond their conscious ego. This is the mystery of creative inspiration, the secret of how the deep, associative, and nonlinear processing of the subconscious mind can give birth to radical novelty. Understanding this process of flow is not just for artists and scientists. It is a key to unlocking our own innate creative potential and finding a state of profound, engaged relaxation as you fall asleep. Let's begin by deconstructing the creative process. Social psychologist Graham Wallace in the 1920s proposed a classic four-stage model that still resonates today. The first stage is preparation. This is the conscious, effortful part. It involves immersing yourself in a problem or a domain, gathering information, learning the necessary skills, and actively struggling with the issue. You are loading the subconscious mind with the raw material it needs to work with. The second stage is incubation. This is the crucial and most mysterious part of the process. It is the period where you consciously stop thinking about the problem. You turn your attention elsewhere, you go for a walk, you take a nap, you work on something else. During this incubation period, the subconscious mind takes over. It is now silently and automatically at work, sifting through the information, making novel connections, and exploring possibilities in a way that the conscious, linear mind cannot. It is engaging in its native language of association, metaphor, and parallel processing. The third stage is illumination. This is the famous eureka moment. After a period of incubation, the solution to the problem, the new idea, or the creative insight suddenly and often unexpectedly bursts into conscious awareness. It can feel like a gift, a revelation from an unknown source. It is the moment when the hidden subconscious work has finally reached a critical threshold and delivered its finished product to the conscious mind. It is Archimedes in his bathtub, Newton under the apple tree. This moment of illumination is not an accident. It is the culmination of the preceding stages of conscious preparation and unconscious incubation. The final stage is verification. This is where the conscious, rational mind comes back online. The new insight must be tested, evaluated, refined, and articulated. The brilliant idea must be translated into a mathematical proof, a finished painting, a workable invention. This stage requires discipline, skill, and critical thinking. True creativity, therefore, is not just a flash of inspiration. It is a collaborative dance between the conscious and the subconscious mind, a partnership between effortful preparation and effortless letting go. This process is deeply connected to the concept of the flow state, which we have explored in other journeys. Flow, the state of being completely and effortlessly absorbed in an activity, is often the experience of creativity in action. In this state, our conscious self-critic, the voice of the ego, quiets down. The sense of time distorts, and we often feel that our actions are guided by a force beyond our deliberate control. This is the experience of the subconscious driver, taking the wheel, drawing upon its vast library of implicit memory and well-honed skills to perform with a grace and fluidity that conscious overthinking would only hinder. The subconscious flow is the state where the work of the unseen mind and the action of the body are in perfect, harmonious alignment. The mindfuck of creativity is its profound challenge to our idea of the self as the sole author of our own thoughts. It suggests that our greatest ideas are not something we create with our conscious ego, but something we receive from the deeper, more mysterious parts of our psyche. As the saying goes, the artist is not a person endowed with free will who seeks their own ends, but one who allows art to realize its purposes through them. This questions our notions of ownership and control over our own creative products. It reframes creativity as an act of listening, of receptivity, of getting out of one's own way to allow something new to be born. The psychology mystery is the nature of the incubation process. What is the subconscious mind actually doing during this period? Is it a form of random, trial and error recombination of ideas? Is it a more directed but still unconscious search through associative networks? Does it involve accessing the collective patterns of the archetypes, as Jung might suggest? We do not know. We only know that the process works, that a period of relaxed, unfocused attention is often the necessary precondition for a creative breakthrough. This is why our best ideas so often come to us not when we are staring intently at a problem, but in the shower, on a walk, or in the gentle liminal state just before we fall asleep, the hypnagogic state. As you continue your journey towards sleep, allow your conscious, analytical mind to begin its nightly process of letting go. Acknowledge that the quiet, receptive state you are now entering is not just a state of rest, but a state of immense creative potential. This is the beginning of the incubation period for your mind, a time for your subconscious to silently sort, to connect, to heal, and to create. You do not need to force any insights. Simply create the space for them. Trust in the silent, powerful, and mysterious creativity of your own deep mind. Find deep relaxation in the surrender of conscious effort, knowing that the most profound work of the mind often happens when we are not trying, but are simply resting, allowing the hidden wellspring of your own creative potential to gently replenish itself in the quiet darkness. Awakening from automatic thinking. Throughout our long and deep journey tonight, we have explored the vast, hidden architecture of the mind. We have seen how so much of our experience, our perceptions, our beliefs, our habits, our emotional responses, is governed by automatic patterns and subtle biases operating just beneath the surface of the mind. We have seen that we are often living in a kind of waking dream, a reality constructed by our cognitive shortcuts and unconscious history. Our final exploration is not about discovering a new hidden trap, but about the profound and liberating possibility of awakening from automatic thinking. What does it mean to wake up from these cognitive illusions? Is it possible to move from being a passive subject of our subconscious programming to becoming a more conscious, more intentional author of our own lives? This is not a mystery to be solved, but a practice to be cultivated. It is a gentle mind fuck that questions the very necessity of our automaticity, suggesting that we have the capacity to step outside the machine. This is the path to true mental freedom, and it is the ultimate pathway to deep relaxation and a truly peaceful sleep. The first and most crucial step in awakening from automatic thinking is the cultivation of awareness, or mindfulness. As we've touched upon throughout our journey, most of our hidden mind traps operate invisibly because we are completely identified with them. We don't feel like we have a belief, we feel like we are our belief. We don't feel like we are in a thought loop, we feel like we are the worrier. Mindfulness is the practice of creating a tiny yet infinitely powerful space between the self and the contents of consciousness. It is the gentle, non-judgmental act of turning the spotlight of your attention back onto your own mind. Imagine you are sitting on the bank of a river, and the river is your stream of consciousness. The thoughts, feelings, and sensations are the water, the leaves, and the debris flowing by. Our normal, automatic state of being is to be in the river, swept along by its currents, tossed and turned by its eddies, completely identified with the flow. The practice of mindfulness is the act of metaphorically stepping out of the river and sitting on the bank. From this position of the observer, you can watch the stream of your thoughts and feelings go by without being carried away by them. You can notice a thought of anxiety arise, see it for what it is, a thought, and then watch it float away without having to believe it or act on it. This is the beginning of freedom. When we are in this state of mindful awareness, we can begin to see our automatic patterns with a new clarity. We can notice the spotlight effect in action as a feeling of self-consciousness, but we don't have to believe its story that everyone is watching us. We can feel the pull of the just world fallacy when we see a victim of misfortune, but we can consciously choose to respond with compassion instead of judgment. We can see a thought loop of overthinking begin to spin, and we can gently unhook our attention from it and bring it back to the present moment. The patterns do not necessarily disappear, but they lose their automatic, compulsive power over us. We are no longer a puppet of the subconscious mind, we are in a conscious relationship with it. This awakening is not a single dramatic event, but a slow, gradual, and often lifelong process. It is a practice. It requires patience and a profound sense of self-compassion. The goal is not to achieve a state of perfect, thought-free enlightenment, but to simply become a little more aware, a little more free, a little more intentional in our daily lives. The mindfuck of this awakening is the realization that the prison we often feel we are in, the prison of our anxieties, our bad habits, our negative thought patterns, is a prison whose walls are made of our own unconscious thoughts. And the key to unlocking this prison is not to fight the walls, but to simply see them clearly for what they are. The moment we see a thought as a thought, rather than as an absolute reality, it begins to lose its power over us. The illusion, once seen, can never be fully believed in the same way again. This psychology mystery is that we have this capacity for meta-awareness, for thinking about our thinking at all. It is one of the most remarkable features of human consciousness. It is the part of us that can step outside the stream and observe itself, the part that can question its own programming. This is the quiet observer within, which we will explore in our conclusion. Cultivating this part of ourselves is the essence of what it means to be a conscious, evolving human being. As you continue to fall asleep, allow yourself to practice this gentle awakening right now. Become aware of the flow of your own thoughts, but from a slight distance. See them not as you, but as mental events, arising and passing away in the vast, quiet space of your own mind. If a worry appears, simply label it without judgment, worrying. If a memory appears, label it remembering. You are not the thoughts. You are the gentle, spacious awareness that is noticing them. This is the first step in awakening from automatic thinking. Find deep relaxation in this quiet, observational stance, in the freedom that comes from knowing that you do not have to believe or follow every thought that drifts through your mind. Resting peacefully as the calm and silent witness to the beautiful, mysterious, and ever-changing landscape of your own consciousness. Reprogramming the hidden mind. Having awakened to the possibility of observing our automatic patterns rather than being ruled by them, we are now faced with a profound and empowering question. Can we consciously and deliberately change them? Can we actively participate in reprogramming the hidden mind? The answer, from a vast body of psychological and neuroscientific research, is a resounding yes. While the subconscious mind is powerful and its habits are deeply ingrained, it is not a fixed and unchangeable monolith. Our brains possess a remarkable property known as neuroplasticity, the ability to reorganize and form new neural connections throughout our entire lives in response to new experiences, behaviors, and patterns of thought. This is a profound secret of the mind, a mindfuck that transforms us from being passive inheritors of our conditioning into active architects of our own character. The mystery is not if we can change, but how this deep and often slow process of transformation actually works. Contemplating our own power to reshape our inner world is a deeply hopeful and calming way to fall asleep. Let's begin by understanding that reprogramming the hidden mind is not like reprogramming a computer. It is not a quick, logical, top-down process. We cannot simply decide, I will no longer feel anxious, or I will now be a confident person, and expect our subconscious to immediately obey. The subconscious, as we've seen, does not primarily speak the language of logic and conscious intention. It speaks the language of repetition, emotion, and experience. Therefore, to reprogram the subconscious, we must communicate with it in its own language. The most powerful tool we have for this is the conscious and deliberate creation of new habits. As we explored in the context of the habit loop, every time we repeat a behavior, we strengthen the neural pathway associated with it. To change a deep-seated automatic pattern, whether it's a behavioral habit like smoking or a mental habit like overthinking, the most effective method is not to fight the old pattern, but to consistently and repeatedly practice a new one. If you want to reprogram a tendency towards anxiety, you can create a new habit of practicing a short, mindful breathing exercise every time you feel the cue of stress. At first, this will feel effortful and artificial. This is your conscious mind, your rider, forcing the powerful elephant of your subconscious to walk down a new, unfamiliar path. But with each repetition, the new path becomes a little more worn, a little more familiar. Over time, through the magic of neuroplasticity, the new behavior can become just as automatic as the old one. This is the slow, patient, and deeply effective work of carving new riverbeds for the stream of your mind to flow through. Another powerful language for communicating with the subconscious is visualization and imagination. Our brains often do not make a strong distinction between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. The same neural pathways can be activated. This is the principle behind the use of visualization in sports psychology, where athletes mentally rehearse their performance to improve their actual physical skill. We can use this same principle to reprogram our emotional responses. By repeatedly and vividly imagining ourselves responding to a challenging situation in a new, calm, and confident way, we are, in a sense, creating a new, implicit memory for our subconscious to draw upon. We are rehearsing a new future. This is not just wishful thinking. It is a form of targeted neural training. The stories we tell ourselves, our narrative identity, are another powerful programming tool. As we've seen, our subconscious mind works to keep our behavior consistent with our self-concept. If you consistently tell yourself the story, I am an anxious person, your mind will be on the lookout for evidence to confirm this story and will be more likely to trigger anxious responses. If, however, you begin to consciously practice telling yourself a new, more empowering story, I am a person who is learning to be calm and resilient, you begin to provide your subconscious with a new set of instructions, a new identity to align with. This must be done with compassion and realism, not as a form of self-deception, but as a conscious orientation towards a desired future self. By changing the story, you change the character. The mindfuck of reprogramming the hidden mind is the realization that many of the tools for doing so seem soft and unscientific to our rational minds. Practices like affirmations, gratitude journals, and loving-kindness meditation can seem like simplistic self-help cliches. But when viewed through the lens of psychology, they are powerful techniques for communicating with the subconscious in its own language. An affirmation is the verbal repetition that helps to forge a new belief. A gratitude journal is a practice that systematically retrains your brain's attentional biases, forcing it to notice the positive over the negative. Loving-kindness meditation is a way of conditioning a new emotional response of compassion and warmth, both for yourself and for others. These are not magic. They are forms of practical, self-directed neuroplasticity. The psychology mystery is the deep alchemy of this transformation. How does a consciously chosen thought, repeated with feeling, eventually become an unconscious, automatic belief? How does a deliberately practiced behavior eventually become a second-nature habit? The precise neurobiological cascade is a subject of ongoing research, but it involves the strengthening of synaptic connections, the myelination of neural pathways, and the gradual reweighting of our brain's predictive models. It is the slow, organic process of the brain physically changing itself in response to our own intention. As you continue to fall asleep, gently hold the profound and empowering idea that you are not a prisoner of your own past programming. Acknowledge the deep, automatic patterns of your hidden mind, your habits, your biases, your learned emotional responses. See them not as a fixed and unchangeable destiny, but as a set of programs that can be gently, patiently, and consciously updated. You are not just the user of your mental software, you are also its programmer. Find deep relaxation in this sense of your own agency, your own power to create change from within. Let go of any feelings of being stuck, and instead, embrace the quiet, hopeful potential for growth and transformation that lies within you, resting peacefully, knowing that with every conscious, compassionate choice, you are slowly and surely reprogramming your hidden mind and shaping the person you are becoming. The quiet observer within. Our long journey into the hidden mind traps and subtle biases of the psyche is now drawing to its final, peaceful close. We have wandered through the invisible architecture of our minds, we have illuminated the hidden machinery of thought, and we have confronted the illusions and stories that shape our reality. We have seen that we are not the purely rational, unified, and self-aware beings we often believe ourselves to be. Our minds are a complex and often paradoxical landscape of conscious intentions and powerful, automatic patterns. We are left with a final, profound mystery. If we are not just our thoughts, not just our feelings, not just our habits, then who or what are we? The final secret that our exploration reveals is the existence and the power of the quiet observer within. This is the core of our consciousness, the silent, non-judgmental awareness that is capable of witnessing all the activity of the mind without being entangled in it. Cultivating a connection with this inner observer is the ultimate antidote to all the mind traps we have discussed. It is the final destination of our journey tonight, a place of profound peace, freedom, and deep relaxation as you fall asleep. Think of your mind, as we have done before, as a vast and flowing river, the stream of consciousness. The river is filled with the contents of your mind. Thoughts, memories, emotions, sensations, urges. Our normal state of being is to be in the river, identified with its contents. We are the angry thought. We are the anxious feeling. We are swept away by the current of our habit loops and thought loops. We are completely immersed in the movie of our mind. The quiet observer within is the awareness that is not in the river but is on the riverbank. It is the part of you that can simply watch the river flow by. It is the silent, spacious background against which all the activity of the mind unfolds. It is the consciousness that is aware of the anger but is not the anger itself. It is the awareness that notices the thought loop of worry but is not the worry. It is the part of you that is reading these words right now. This observer has no qualities of its own. It is pure, clear, and still. It does not judge, it does not analyze, it does not try to change anything. It simply witnesses. The mindfuck of the quiet observer is that it is both the most intimate part of you and the most impersonal. It is the very essence of your subjective experience, the feeling of I am, yet it has no personal characteristics. It is the same silent awareness that was there when you were a child, the same awareness that has witnessed every thought and feeling of your entire life. While the contents of your mind have changed endlessly, this witnessing awareness itself has remained constant and untouched. This perspective suggests that your true, deepest self is not the character in the story, the personality with all its biases and dramas, but the author's, or rather, the reader's awareness itself. This is not just a philosophical or spiritual concept. It has a basis in neuroscience. As we've seen, practices like mindfulness meditation, which are designed to cultivate this observer consciousness, have been shown to change the brain. They can quiet the activity of the default mode network, the part of the brain that generates the narrative self and the stream of self-referential thought. They can strengthen the prefrontal cortex, enhancing our ability to regulate our attention and our emotional responses. The practice of being the quiet observer is a form of reprogramming the hidden mind, a way of shifting our neurological default from being lost in thought to resting in awareness. From this place of the observer, the hidden mind traps we have explored lose their power. They are all, in a sense, cases of mistaken identity, where we confuse a mental process for a reality. The spotlight effect dissolves when the observer simply notices the feeling of being watched, without believing the story that everyone is watching. The just world fallacy loses its grip when the observer notices the mind's impulse to blame a victim, without having to accept that impulse as a moral truth. A thought loop of overthinking is seen for what it is, a repetitive mental pattern like a skipping record which we can choose to stop listening to. From the perspective of the quiet observer, all the biases, the illusions, and the automatic patterns become just weather in the vast, open sky of our awareness. They can be interesting, they can be stormy, but they cannot harm the sky itself. This is the ultimate freedom that self-awareness provides. It is not about eliminating our biases or perfecting our minds, which may be an impossible task. It is about changing our relationship to our minds. It is the shift from being a prisoner of our thoughts to being the spacious, peaceful witness of our thoughts. As our journey together tonight comes to its final, quiet conclusion, let go of all the concepts, all the theories, all the hidden mind traps we have discussed. Let them all dissolve. And simply rest your attention on the fact of your own awareness, right here, right now. Feel the silent, still, and peaceful presence that is effortlessly witnessing this moment. This is the quiet observer within. It is the core of you, the part that has been here all along, beneath the surface of all the noise. You do not need to do anything to find it. You only need to stop doing everything else. Find the deepest relaxation of all and simply resting as this awareness. It is a place of absolute safety, of profound peace, of unconditional acceptance. It is the true home of your being. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the secrets of the mind. Rest now. Rest deeply, in the quiet, spacious, and eternal presence of your own true self.